good. I have the mics on now, by the way. Wait, you restarted it?
Let's go. We're in. Cool.
Very live. Very, very alive.
Do we want to get JP on the phone before we start the podcast, or what's the plan there? Wow, you were thinking about that deeply. I didn't notice that.
I figured we'll probably call him now.
Cool. Let's do that then.
Hopefully he picks up.
Are you gonna need a phone charger through the show?
I'm at 46%, and my phone holds charge pretty well.
Yeah, but you're gonna be using your phone for 3 hours.
Yeah.
If needs be, I've got one in my backpack over there in the corner we can get out.
Like, where the heck is... Oh. J... P... H... I... J... Where is he in the P's? Elman O... P is cool. Let me turn that down a little bit. He's coming through strong. What's up, JP?
Hello.
You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, bet.
Perfect. We are live currently. I don't know if you're watching or not. If you're a one viewer.
I was the one viewer.
Well, welcome into the show, JP. Let's start the podcast.
Let me check our sound real quick.
I just checked it on my iPad. We
okay.
should be good.
Perfect then.
So, we can start?
Okay, cool.
Wow.
We are not starting with that one.
That was so loud.
Turn it down a little bit.
Okay, you ready to try again?
Yeah. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Technical Fowl podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack Anderson, and to my left is Sanders Oakley, another one of my very beautiful co-hosts. Unfortunately, JP is not joining us in studio today. He's on the phone, though. Say hi, JP.
Hi.
You also are very beautiful, too, JP. Just wanted to let you know that.
Appreciate that, man.
How's your day been?
Fantastic. Got a lot of TikToks posted today. That's really all I did. So, pretty good.
Cool.
Pretty good day. Ready to talk Big Ten football.
JP, how's Georgia been?
It's been good. Good to be home. Don't get to see home very often, so it's been good to be home.
Makes sense.
Been doing a bunch of fantasy football work today, trying to figure out how to draft from the position I'm in and offering trades to other owners in the league, and none have been accepted yet.
There's still time.
No one's given them the time of day to actually look at what I'm giving them.
Sure.
And in pretty much every instance, I'm giving them more than I'm getting, but they don't care for whatever reason. So
See, I just find that so hard to believe because if you're doing that in every situation, then why are you offering the trades?
because I want to be in the spots that they're in, but I'm giving up like better draft capital on paper, if that makes sense.
All right.
His plan, he needs to not be in his spot. Other people, though. can
Isn't
make it
that
work.
a Kanye song? God's plan or something? God's plan.
That's Drake.
Drake, my bad.
We may need to get. That's a strike.
Yeah,
That's a strike. Hold up, man. Crazy.
All right.
Wow.
Let's talk Big Ten football.
Yeah, we can.
Let me
I
pull
just need a second to recollect myself. Holy.
It's not. Was it that bad? Is that
That's
egregious?
that's a pretty
Yeah,
egregious
yeah,
blunder in my
that
opinion.
is like you just called a liberal a MAGA person. Like that was
yeah.
it's like that level of disrespectful to the GOAT that is Kanye.
I meant no disrespect. I haven't listened to that song. Like I just know it from like Instagram
Clearly,
and
you
TikTok.
haven't.
Yeah, but like it sounds like Drake. I don't know.
Well, you would have to listen to it to know.
But if you've heard it on TikTok, you have listened to it.
No,
You've not listened to the whole thing.
no,
but-
I do not know the whole thing. I don't know any of it, other than the God.
Man, you sound you should rap, man.
So now I sound like Drake. Maybe it's not that hard to mix them up.
No,
So now you think I sound like Drake?
you jokingly have mastered his flow on that song, or I should say
Appreciate-
sarcastically mastered his flow because
Appreciate it.
not actually. But yeah, we can get into the Big Ten,
Let's do that.
the largest of the Power Four conferences at this point. With
Yeah, have we
18
talked about how
teams.
this is all your fault on show?
How is it all my fault?
It is the Texas A&M and Aggies' fault that we are spending
No.
3 hours previewing 16 to 18 team conferences.
SEC shouldn't have let us in.
Back in 2012, we had nice 12 team conferences, some 10 team conferences, and then A&M and Missouri. And I don't blame Missouri. Missouri just kind of was like, sure, whatever. Like they don't care. Like they don't have any
How
of
do you
that
not
sway.
blame Missouri?
Well, they just kind of like followed what like a big cool school was doing. They
I
they were
mean,
like the little brother.
You're about the only person ever to call A&M a big cool school.
Y'all have like 60,000 students and like
70 plus. Cool is more the word.
it's 70 now,
Mm-hmm.
dude.
I believe
wow.
so. I was talking. Cool is not a word that normally gets thrown around with A&M.
Yeah, but like as far as athletics goes, like I'm sure that
It's actually Texas's fault because we were going to start a Lone Star network with them,
oh yeah.
but then they tried to take unequal revenue rights
Yeah.
or revenue share,
And
and
so
so
y'all
we said
dipped.
no, screw that. We'll just go join the SEC,
okay.
and so then they made the Longhorn network.
Yep. Okay.
So their greed really kicked it off.
Well, it's someone in Texas's fault that we're about to be here for 3.5 hours. But let's start Illinois so
No.
that we are not here for longer.
There's only 18 teams. It won't be 3.5 hours. First thing I do want to talk about, it's weird, JP, that I is the first letter alphabetically
yeah,
for the Big
very.
Ten. Like ACC, you're starting off with Boston College.
Yep.
For the Big 12,
Arizona State.
yeah. But
I-
I was,
Go ahead.
you got it, because we're going to tell basically the same story.
I got on the sheet and saw Illinois was the first team up. And I was like, what bozo of my co-host was like, I'm going to start with Illinois and skip all the other schools. And then I went and looked, and Illinois was just the first school up alphabetically. And I was like, well, I'm the bozo. What's up, Sven? Hail State. I know this is college football is more your thing, I believe is what he said. So we're
Sure.
excited to talk Big Ten football with you. And then on Monday, Sven, we will be doing SEC football.
So there will be a nice long state segment talking about
Yeah.
how the team has improved, but
Yeah.
if the team is any good.
We will be talking about both those things.
But yes, as Sanders mentioned, Illinois is first up. We have the AP poll now. So they are now preseason number 12 Illinois, according to the AP poll. They went 10-3 last year under head coach Brett Bielema.
Bielema.
Bielema. Sorry, it's a tough name.
That's an early miss from us. That's tough.
You should just let me roll, man. It's all good.
But then all the comments should
Sure.
have been
Like
like,
you haven't missed yet yourself, Sanders.
no, I have. I just know now all the comments are gonna be like, it's Bielema.
Why don't I just restart?
Let's restart. Let's do that.
Bielema.
Bielema.
Okay.
What do you say, Bielema?
Just say Coach Brett, man.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds great to me. Illinois, preseason ranked number 12 coming into this year. Last year they went 10-3 under Coach Brett. I will not try and pronounce his last name due to previous misfires, but Coach Brett. They went 10-3 and return a ton of their production from last year, leading them to that number 12 overall preseason ranking. The biggest piece they bring back probably is their QB Luke Altmaier, as well as their whole offensive line they bring back from their previous seasons. So first off, JP, thoughts on Luke Altmaier? I know he's a Starkville kid, spent some time at Ole Miss, but he left. So does that give him brownie points in your eyes, or once a Rebel, always a Rebel?
I don't really care about that, to be honest.
Fair.
It really holds no impact at that point. Like, I don't have resentment for A.J. Brown necessarily, because he went to Starkville High, so Starkville kid.
Gotcha.
That's
I'm tracking
not
now.
that's not his fault. It's probably not Luke's fault.
No.
It's probably more of the system we ran when Luke was a potential recruit, and then in the A.J. Brown case, it's Joe Moorhead's fault. So,
Yeah.
Luke is good. He's a talented kid. One of your notes on there is handles the RPO scheme really well for Illinois. Could not agree more. He's really talented at that. He's got a lot of moxie, plays with a good amount of confidence for a guy who's not necessarily like off the charts talented. He can run a little bit, but that's not necessarily a strong suit. He's
Sure.
more of a pocket passer. For him and for Illinois this season, it's a question of how he plays. And some of their big games, which they've got, almost all of them are in the first half of the season.
Sure.
We'll see how he can play in those kind of scenarios. How does he play against, elite defense like Ohio State? That's going to be an interesting game this year. And then for him and for Illinois and the Fighting Illini, he needs to just be consistent. Like, he just needs to be someone who doesn't turn the ball over like he did last year. 22 touchdowns, 6 picks. Someone that can move the offense, lead a scoring drive, once a quarter, and they're going to be in a good spot because this is a team that's going to rely on their defense and slowing the clock down and really trying to drain each possession and ball control football, as we call it. So Luke has the keys to do that, and he has the talent to do that. So I like him as a quarterback, and I think he fits the Illini really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect because, like you said, they're going to look to just kind of play good defense, slow down the game, because they know they don't necessarily have the talent of the big dogs in this conference. So you don't really want to get into a boat race against those guys. So they just kind of have to play their game, and he does that perfectly. I mentioned they have tons of continuity, but they did lose a couple key pieces. Josh McCray is one of them. He's was their leading rusher last year. I actually had him in fantasy, but he transferred out to Georgia, so he's joining the SEC. And then their two leading receivers that combined for about 1,600 receiving yards last season, they're both leaving in Pat Bryant and Zakari Franklin. So the skill positions, there's going to be some newer faces. Look out for Hudson Clement. He's transferring in from West Virginia. Had 741 receiving yards and 5 TDs there last year, and just a contested catch machine. Could become one of Luke Altmaier's favorite targets. Biggest question I have for them this season is they're getting some hype. I've mentioned multiple times, they're number 12 in the AP poll preseason. Is there any world where y'all see them really competing with Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, knocking off, Ohio State at home, for example, week 7 or something like that? Or do you think they're pretty firmly in the tier 2 of this conference?
I could see them. Hold on just a sec. Sorry.
You're good.
I could see them like putting together like an upset over an Ohio State. Maybe they get them at home. That's a advantage they have. But I don't see them putting together like a season long that kind of success. I mean, they've got two other Big Ten matchups against USC, who a lot of people are really high on. I'm pretty high on them right now. They have to go to Indiana. Indiana's coming off of their 11-win season last year. They got to go to Duke, who won 9 games. So, like, they've got a tough schedule, and I could see them winning, 2 of those games or 3 of those games. Maybe they get an upset over Ohio State, but I don't see them doing it, like, consistently week in, week out. So I don't see them getting to a Big Ten championship, and I definitely don't see them winning a Big Ten championship. I still think they're below that tier of teams that I see winning a Big Ten championship.
That's fair.
I mean, they're completely – I think that being a conversation for them is kind of insane. Given the odds, they're ninth in odds to win the Big 12 or Big 10, and I think unfortunately for them, and I hope that's not the case this season, that the narrative is that being ranked this high to begin the season, the expectations then are, oh, you're a playoff team. This is not a playoff team. This is not a team that I think is going to be even in that top tier, like you say, Jack, of the Big Ten. I think not the worry, but the goal for them would be, can we be at the top of the tier 2 in the Big Ten? And if that's the case, then that's a successful season. They just don't have the talent to ever compete with Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and even Michigan. But can they compete with the teams in that tier 2? And they'll get the chances to do that. Can they compete with Indiana? Can they compete with USC, Washington, Wisconsin? How they play in those games is more so important to me than how they play Week 7 against Ohio State. And Week 5 is, I think, the biggest potential game of the season for them. You know, Lincoln Riley's in a huge year for USC, and USC is more than likely going to be undefeated when they roll into Illinois in Week 5. So that game is huge for me. Obviously, Week 4 matters a ton with the rivalry.
Yeah.
But for Illinois, I am more concerned of, can they compete and separate themselves from the other teams in the tier 2. That's more important to me than if they can pull off an upset, which I don't think they can pull off an upset at all. I don't think this conference has a team that can do that. That's like I would have to go really bad from one of these tier 1 teams, specifically Ohio State, Penn State, or Oregon, to lose to one of these teams. I just, the talent discrepancy is just like a complete, utter separator. There's questions at the quarterback position for Oregon and Ohio State, sure, but the talent is just too great. That I think they could play their worst game possible, and they're still winning by a field goal maybe against one of these teams. So I don't think that's necessarily something you need to look at for Illinois this season. But unfortunately, I think it will be how they're judged, because they're number 12 to start the season in the AP poll.
Yeah, one of the people's favorite things to do in the offseason is find the dark horse candidates from every conference, and this has become a popular one here. And I completely agree, JP. I don't really see it, and I do think it'll potentially hurt them down the stretch. We talk about expectations all the freaking time on this show.
Yeah.
And if your expectations get too high unfairly, then you can end up being disappointed by a season that you really shouldn't be disappointed for. They hit 10 wins last season. I also think they punched a little above their weight last season as well. If they could somehow find a way to hit double-digit wins again this season, it would be the first time in school history for them to do that. I personally don't see it. Can we get the over-under, because it's not on the sheet for some reason?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Preach Sanders. Because it's just a tough schedule. It actually could be a lot worse, to be honest, while it is a tough schedule, because you don't play Penn State or Oregon. But it is a front-loaded schedule. Duke out of conference is no slouch. So it's going to be tough for them to kind of live up to that number 12 ranking, but that's not really what they should be looking to do. What do we have?
It's 8.5. Before we hit that, I just wanted to, as Sven pointed out, they are just not the same as the other teams, and JP said it as far as talent goes, and I just want to give some of the numbers. It was actually really impressive what Brett Bielema was able to do last year with a team that was fairly untalented on paper. The last 3 recruiting classes being 7th, 15th, and then 13th this year. So middle of the Big Ten, they're definitely not even, as far as talent goes, JP, you talk about being at the top of the second tier. They're not recruiting like that team.
No.
So Brett Bielema has kind of put this team in a position to be at the top of that second tier with a not lower quality roster, but just a slightly less talented roster on paper. They finished 14th out of 18 in the transfer portal this year, so that's about where they were last year. So I will be interested to see if Bielema can continue to find that kind of success being at the top of that second tier with a less talented roster.
Yeah, you said 8.5.
Win total is 8.5.
What do you got, Sanders?
I'm going to go over.
Okay.
I know JP said he doesn't think. Do you think that this team has the chance to get an upset over an Ohio State?
No, I don't think it's how they're built. I think they're a steady team, a consistent team. If someone is going to pull off an upset against an Ohio State or Oregon, and it is college football, stuff happens. But just in general, it would have to be a more high variance team, someone that has more talent, and that could just have a really good game. So I don't really see it either. 8.5 is tricky because I don't see them hitting double-digit wins again in the regular season. Well, I guess they were 9-3 in the regular season last year. But 8.5 is a good line. JP, what are your thoughts while I'm still thinking on it?
I've got them going under, just under. I wouldn't bet it. I'd struggle to bet it at least.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be my top bet. I think they go 8-4. I think that's completely manageable in the ballpark for them. But I see tough games, and I don't know if Illinois is good enough to win some of these tough games. They won a few of them last year. You think about the Nebraska game; that was a big win for them when both teams were undefeated and ranked early in the season. But I just don't see them consistently doing that. They're going to have to do that, playing at Duke, at Indiana, at Washington. I mean, at Wisconsin and Camp Randall is no easy cakewalk there. So I just don't see it to get into 9 wins in the regular season. I do see it, though. I think they could get to 9 wins with the bowl game win.
Sure.
But not with the regular season.
Yeah, I think I'll go under with you. 8 wins, too. It's a very soft under, a very slight under. And I don't feel confident about it, but that's just my lean. I think that's it for Illinois. We can move on.
Cool.
To yet another I team. Kind of one of their rivals. Number 20, Indiana, burst onto the scene last year after not really being a historical football school. They go 11-2 with head coach Kurt Signetti, Coach Sig. And they look to reload. They did lose some stuff. For example, Curtis Rourke is leaving the program. He went pro. And they look to replace him with Fernando Mendoza, Cal's QB last year. We mentioned him in the ACC preview. But he's not here to probably start among other guys. They're bringing in 9 transfers to start. So we kind of got a mix of returning guys and then some transfers to try and run it back and build on an impressive start to Kurt Signetti's tenure here at Indiana. First, I want to go. I have an Indiana family friend, and I reached out to her, and she thinks she's cautiously optimistic about their season. Kind of what I already said. It's a mix of returners and new guys. She's curious if they can gel correctly or not. She does think that Indiana gets disrespected in the national media. I don't know how much I agree with her on that. But they did get clowned on a lot last season. I'm not sure all of it was fair. Well, let's start with the quarterback like we always do, though. Thoughts on Fernando Mendoza? I can give my thoughts.
JP?
I can go.
Sure.
Mendoza does not really impress me. He's got choppy feet. He's really got happy feet in the pocket. He's never really like you want to see, where he's kind of in a little groove and going through his progressions. He like I said, he's happy feet, choppy feet. He almost never, in the highlights that I watched of last season, gets to your stereotypical throwing base. He throws off with bad footwork a lot of the time. The mechanics are just simply not good. But he still makes good throws somehow. He threw for 3,000 yards last season for Cal, and he's got a really strong arm. So he's got some talent there. I don't think he's as good as Rourke was, but he's no slouch. I just think with the poor footwork in the big games this year, I think he's going to turn the ball over a ton.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to, 6 interceptions last year, not a ton. I think he will this year, playing against talented defenses. He's playing against Penn State, Oregon, and Iowa, all of those on the road. I think he's going to struggle in all of those games, and I think it's going to hurt the Hoosiers a ton this year, just his lack of proper mechanics from a quarterback perspective. I see you've got him on there, or one of you has him on there as a potential NFL draft darling. He's got a ton he's got to clean up before he gets there, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a good pickup. It fills the need, and I think it will keep them competitive this season. I just don't think he's good enough to win any of the big games for Indiana this year.
Yeah, I put NFL draft darling on there, not necessarily my opinion, but he's just kind of talked as someone that could really rise up boards. I was doing research. I saw a couple people be like potential QB1 if the season goes his way, which I think is kind of crazy. Because I also have it on there, he has to limit the bad plays, which comes down to the footwork and stuff you were talking about.
Was he one of the PFF top 200 guys?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I will say in his defense, he played behind a terrible O-line at Cal last season, which didn't help matters. And talking about rookie profiles, very different as Rourke, because Rourke was kind of your very accurate, safe QB, wasn't going to make mistakes, but wasn't necessarily going to make wow plays. Mendoza does have the arm, like you said, to make the wow plays, but he also is going to make a lot of mistakes because he tries to rely on the arm and not mechanics and footwork like you're talking about. So I'm interested to see how it goes for him here. I agree he could really struggle because it's a step up here in defenses in the Big Ten from the ACC, so we may have to adjust. His top weapon is going to be Elijah Surratt, who's returning for Indiana. He had 957 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns last season. But yeah, their win total is at 8.5. But before I get there, JP, I have another question. I guess for both of y'all, really. You talked a lot about expectations for Illinois, right? And that they shouldn't really view themselves in that top tier, and they should look to dominate tier 2. In my eyes, that's kind of how I view Indiana. But I think because of how Indiana themselves has portrayed themselves in the media, that they have tried to put themselves into tier 1, and now it's almost like they have to prove it. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I didn't explain it very well. But it's like they don't get the same. They themselves have raised their own expectations so high, and so now they do have to meet that.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that? Do I need to try and rephrase it?
No, you phrased it well. I'm trying to think. I would agree. I do think that Indiana, they had a very successful season last year, and it was Cignetti's first year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that Indiana fans probably did. However, your Indiana friend who said cautiously optimistic, I don't know if she's a good cross section of the entire fan base, but like cautiously optimistic, I think is a fair way to approach this season. I mean, it's possible. You get 9 wins, 10 probably not 10 unless you can beat Illinois at home, but 9 wins is still on the table, 10 wins with a bowl game. But I think you're right. I don't think that's going to prove themselves in the top tier. I think they're still going to lose to the Oregon and Penn State teams. So I really don't see them proving that they're a top tier Big Ten team this season. But I don't know that they'll be too upset about it. I could be wrong. I don't know that. I feel like even Indiana fans have to recognize that last season's schedule was easy. Now, I'm not saying that was necessarily their fault, the way their conference schedule fell, nor do I think that they should have been out of the playoffs. I had them in it. But their schedule last season was easy, and the hardest team they faced, they lost to. And, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know what Indiana fans are going to say that they, yeah. I could see that being the case, but I think that they'll be okay with 9 wins, 10 wins. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't be.
Well, I mean, if they get to 9, 10 wins and hit their over, and that's 10 wins, you very well are in the college football playoffs again, depending on how things break. So, I mean, that, I think, right there, that's not necessarily a
bad season.
Yeah, there's no reason to even try and spin it. JP, give your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll push back on that. Yeah, they played their best team they played and they lost, but that's Ohio State at the shoe. Only Michigan wins there. So I don't know how much of an argument that is towards how bad Indiana was. And in the other game against Notre Dame, that's also at Notre Dame. That's not really an easy game for anyone, regardless of who it is.
No.
I think they're going to be good this year. Their viewpoint it comes from their coach. It comes from Coach Sig. He is bombastic. He is overly confident, and rightfully so, because the dude is a winner. All he has done since he's got to the FBS level is win. 8-3 at JMU, 11-1 at JMU, and 11-2 last year. They're hitting the over this year. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that, because all that Kirk Cignetti does is win, and they're going to win a ton of games this year. Are they going to compete and win at Oregon or Penn State? Probably not. But I think they'll win every other game on the schedule. I think Coach Shig has proven that he is capable of doing that regardless of who the roster is. And I think they've got a good enough roster this year to compete with all the other teams on their schedule.
Sure.
I think for them, can you stay ranked all year would be nice. I think it helps the program a ton because, like you said at the top, this is not a football program historically ever. This is notoriously just a basketball program and a basketball university, and their success last year was unprecedented. And they're just hoping that they can continue that, and I think they will this year. I think 9 wins is very doable. 8 wins is the floor for me, but I think they'll get to 9 or 10 wins this year.
Yeah, I'm also gonna take the over at 9. I am still. It's just like I'm all for. I actually do like Coach Sig. You kind of described him perfectly. It's just you have to keep delivering on that if you're gonna talk like that, and so far he has. So there's no reason to really hate. But it does almost feel like, in a way, to me, they're building a house of cards. Like it wouldn't take much for all of it to crumble down. But it is a fairly talented team. They made good additions in the portal to fill holes of people they left. Put himself in a good spot again this season, so I'll take the over.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Signetti maybe capitalize on last year's season with a little bit better talent, bringing in some better talent. They finished 15th out of 18 in Big Ten in high school recruiting 2025, 7th out of 18 in the portal. But I'm also going to take the over because I also believe in Signetti, and I still think that the schedule, other than those 3 ranked games, is pretty favorable towards them, and even that Illinois game is at home. So I'm also going to go with the over, but I'll be interested to see if they get another 9-10 win season. What does recruiting look like next year? Can Signetti really start to cash in those wins and like build something stronger than a house of cards? Because I don't know that how sustainable that success is in the Big Ten, where you're playing teams regularly with blue chip ratios like 60-70%.
Sure.
If you're bringing in 4 stars a class and maybe a 5-star, it's going to be hard to hang with them and keep clicking.
It's kind of what he does, though. We talked about it at length. Before his first season in Indiana, it's like they just relentlessly scout the guys they want, and they find people that they think fit their athletic profile and their mental makeup. They're looking for dogs. Obviously, you'd rather have a 5-star dog, but I will say, if I trust someone, coming back to trusting Coach Sig, if I trust someone to build a program with not the most highly rated guys, it's him. So I'll give him some credit there. But anyway, so you said over. So we all have him going over. Cool. We can move on to another I team. The Iowa Hawkeyes. Shout out one Ryan Steele, who he's my brother-in-law, but decided at one point years ago he wanted like a second college football team, and he chose Iowa. I remember being really sad. It was the year they snuck into they've done it a couple of times when there were divisions in the Big Ten, and Iowa was on the opposite side of like Michigan and Ohio State, so they would find themselves in the Big Ten championship game, and then they get killed. I just have vivid memories of him being sad because it'd be like trying to convince himself like we're gonna make this happen, and then doesn't really go that way. Anyway, they went 8-5 last year under head coach Kirk Ferentz, who's been there. Feels like forever.
Yeah.
I don't remember a time when he wasn't there. I know that's not accurate, but yeah, 8-5, which is another consistent year for them, another solid year for them as they kind of learn to do. They're still looking to find ways to revamp that offense that's just been so bad for the past couple years. They've been talking about at length these past couple seasons. Cade McNamara, he's the answer. He's going to fix the passing attack. He doesn't do that. They're on to their next guy now. Mark Gronowski, QB from South Dakota State, so FCS QB, but he won multiple FCS championships there. Last season, he had 2,700 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 7 picks, and 10 rushing TDs, so he's a big dual-threat guy. Do we think he can make the FBS jump, or do you think he's more of an FCS darling?
I really liked him. I was watching him play yesterday, watching some of his highlights, and I do really like the run threat. He's got the kind of run threat where it's not just like he's a big guy. He also, I saw a couple QB draws where once he gets past the linebackers, he can like beat the secondary. Like he's got some speed too. He's not just a big guy, but he's a pretty large guy. So he was pretty fun to watch. I'm really excited to see him play at Iowa, and I'll be interested to see. I feel like I don't remember. McNamara was more of a passer, right? So I think it'll be good for them. I really wish that Caleb Johnson is that right? Caleb Johnson, the running
Yeah,
back,
yeah.
was still there because that could have been a really fun backfield. It's kind of sad that Johnson's out the door and now they bring in a dual threat quarterback. But I'm excited to see him play. I think he's got a good chance of making the jump.
JP?
I love him. He's really fun. They ran a lot of design QB runs at South Dakota State. He isn't super fast, but like Sanders said, he just kind of has that like late acceleration that he'll just a DB will think that he's got him, and then Mark just beats him down the sideline or beats him through the middle, and it's really impressive to see. Also at 6'2", 365, like he can run through some guys.
365?
He did that.
260.
He said
235.
235.
235. Okay, okay.
I was gonna say,
260. You good? You good? 235. Cool. So he is a big guy.
He can run through some guys. He plays really well in cold weather, and they had to do that. South Dakota State doesn't have the indoor dome like North Dakota State, so he would play in some snow games. In fact, some of his best games last year were in the snow. I'll say one thing: his ball placement, specifically on his highlights, is ridiculous. Like it's like NFL level, putting the ball exactly where it needs to be every time on deep throws down the field and even in the intermediate. He is really good at that. And then a play that like the Jackrabbits ran a ton was they ran like this almost like Tim Tebow jump pass kind of thing. They would fake the QB draw, leak the tight end out, and they scored like 3 or 4 touchdowns off that last season. So Jackrabbits had a really high-powered offense, a lot of explosive plays, but now he comes to Iowa, and I'm really curious how they're going to use him, if they're going to let him do any of that. If they did, I think they're going to have a chance to be successful finally for their standards as an offense. But on top of that, they play a really tough schedule this year, and the talent around them is not great. There's a few good offensive linemen. There's some good defenders there with chances to be in the NFL, but I just don't see them competing both sides of the ball because they're not elite defensively this year. They're above average.
Yeah.
And I think that's just going to be a downside for the Hawkeyes this year. But I hope we get to finally see a quarterback play with some flair for the Hawkeyes. And I think if you give Gronowski the chance, I think he'll do that.
Yeah, I agree. They got to give him the chance. And I think you made a great point. At least he's a runner, and they've had a lot of pocket passers recently. So even if maybe the passing game doesn't take off like they'd hope, he can still make some plays with his legs. You mentioned the offensive lineman, JP. It's Jennings Dunker and Logan Jones both look to be potential top 3 round draft picks. They're both very good. So he's going to play behind a pretty good offensive line there in Iowa, which they always seem to have. Kamari Moulton is the back that is going to have to try and replace. You just said his name.
Caleb Johnson.
Caleb Johnson. Thank you. I literally blanked on it. Caleb Johnson was fantastic for them running the ball last season. He's going to have to step up. But yeah, I agree. The schedule shakes up pretty poorly for them, and also just having to play Iowa State at Iowa State week 2. They do it every year, but it's a tough out of conference draw. So over under 7.5. What are we thinking?
I still think I'm going to have to go under with the schedule. They've got 4 ranked opponents, current preseason ranked opponents on the schedule, and then they also have USC and Nebraska, who, like I said earlier about USC, and we'll get to them later, I'm higher on. And Nebraska is a talented team, and they've always got hype around them before the season, so I would never mark that off as a win going into it. But I'm going to have to go under, I think.
Yeah,
I've got the under as well. I'd be curious to see how many of these games they're favored in. For the win total to be 7.5, they wouldn't be favored against Iowa State, Indiana, Penn State, Oregon. They're not going to be favored at USC. When we get there, they're not going to be favored at Nebraska. So I just don't see how this team gets to 8 wins. Under feels like a lock, if you're asking me personally.
Yeah, I'm also taking the under. I feel like a lot of teams in the same tier as them last year in the Big Ten got better, and we'll get to them later. And I feel like they're going to sit around the same, so they'll get passed up, even though maybe they don't really get worse. But but maybe we'll at least see some exciting QB play from them for once. So
I will say this. I don't know what the defense is going to look like. Iowa typically has a very good defense with Gronowski at quarterback. I feel like on defense they usually allow less than 20 points a game, right? Like it's got to be in the teens.
Yeah, they've been elite. Most of their top defenses were, like you said, in teens
Yeah,
from a points per game perspective.
If
they're going to have big games this year too.
Yeah, so
I think they're a team that can pull off some upsets potentially.
Yeah.
If you're looking at one.
Yeah, if they can put together a defense like that yet again, then there's a chance Gronowski doesn't light up, turn it into a Miami offense, putting up 30 or 40 a game. But if he can put up 22 a game or 20 a game, this could be a really interesting team.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing where I'm at though with Iowa. As much as I like Gronowski and we've talked him up, I gotta see it before I buy into it because they've tried to sell us offseason after offseason that it's fixed, it's gonna be better, and it's just never been better. So I'm not gonna base any preseason picks or predictions off of a theoretical passing game because at this point we have quite a track record of that not being the case. So
next up.
Yep, the Maryland Terrapins. Good old Maryland.
Sven, I can't wait to get to USC. He's over there saying that Iowa's going to beat USC in USC. I don't know about that one.
It's a bold take. We will get to USC much, much later
True.
in
much
the show.
Later.
But yeah, down year for Maryland in 2024. Only went 4-8 under head coach Mike Locksley. Talia had left, and the QB position didn't really perform well last year. I didn't realize this. Talia is the leading. He holds the passing record in the Big Ten.
Who does?
Talia. Tagovailoa.
Oh, yeah.
Tua's brother.
Talia? Is it?
Talia? Is it Talia?
I believe it's Talia.
Well, if I've just pronounced her name wrong multiple times, I apologize.
I could have it wrong. I'm not positive. You can call him what you want.
Cool.
And then I'll call, and then one of us will be right. So we'll split it 50-50.
We actually are not positive at who's starting for QB this season. Justin Martin is one of the options who's transferring in from UCLA where he had limited playing time, but he has a pretty live arm, a pretty big arm. And then who I hope they start in Malik Washington, a true freshman. He was 54th nationally, according to 247. Dual threat, very athletic, can make throws. He's one of their highest rated QB commits of all time, if not the highest. So I think that's who they're going to go with. That's who I would go with. I would just try and get the future started, get the clock started on this guy, get him reps, let him learn early, because I don't really think this team is going to be that good this year. I'll go in and say it. So, let him learn, let him grow in game. Probably a lost season anyway. Their offensive line last season, the grade was 47.1 per PFF, which was the worst in the Big Ten. And then the other side of the ball, they averaged 0.9 sacks per game, which was the fourth worst in the FBS. So just really, really poor along the line of scrimmages, which is kind of what Big Ten football is about, is in the trenches. Really, just power football in general, Big Ten, SEC, the trenches matter so much. And they didn't have either of them. And to make matters worse, Ty Felton, their top wide receiver, and Roman Hemby, their top running backs, are both gone. And they didn't really bring in impact guys to replace them. There's some in-house guys they're leaning on to improve. But overall, it doesn't seem like the best situation for me. Thoughts on Maryland, JP or Sanders?
They also lost wide receiver, too.
They did, correct.
I had him in fantasy football is the only reason I know that. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But so they're replacing their top two wide receivers and starting a new quarterback. I will say, if you look, it's impressive that they went 4-8 last year and still landed the 8th best recruiting class in the Big Ten. When we just looked at a team like Indiana, who went 11-3 or 11-2,
sure, and
landed the 17th or something, 15th. So it was. It's a young team, a talented team. It could be if they want to, and I think that there could be a lot of benefit into getting those young guys on the field early. The risk you run is that one or two of them play well, but not enough of them to put together a team, and they all transfer out. But I do think that this could be a really good year for Maryland to kind of tear things down and kind of get some experience for the younger guys. JP?
I'm going to contradict myself on the next team, but I would not start Malik Washington. I think he's too raw. I think he's got to put on some weight is a big thing first. I think he could potentially get himself hurt this season playing against Big Ten pass rushers. I'd start Justin Martin. I'd continue to be bad. I'd let Malik, develop physically. He reminds me, not that he is the same really whatsoever, but like it reminds me of Kamario Taylor here at State. Like Kamario is tiny right now. They're about the same size, both 6'4". Malik's actually 6'5", but Kamario needs to put on weight just as much as Malik does, and I think Malik's in that spot.
Sure.
The talent is there. He's dynamic, especially from a dual threat perspective. So he's more than likely going to play this season just because of it's hard to keep that kind of talent off of the field. And State might be in a similar spot here at some point this season as well. But I would not start Malik. I'd start the transfer Justin. He's 6'5", pocket passer. He'll play fine. They're not going to be good, so I wouldn't rush Malik. Now, I think the big thing for them is in this era of college football, you got to keep Malik. So if you have to play him to keep him, then play him. But otherwise, I would not play Malik this year.
I get your logic. I think the reason I would start Malik off rip is you start versus FAU, and then week 2 it's Northern Illinois, and then week 3 it's Towson. So you give him a nice little entry into the season and can let him get his feet wet. Because I agree he's going to end up playing at some point this season. So let him get his feet wet before he ends up starting, week 10 against Indiana and then other dogs down the stretch. If you just let him start now, he can kind of get going a little bit.
That's a fair point.
You have to keep these guys, and like you said, you may have to let them play to keep them. So their over-under's 4.5. Pretty low. What are we thinking here on that?
I think I'm gonna go with the over just because. Well, actually, no. I think I'm gonna go with the under. I was thinking 3.5, but at 4.5, I still think I'm gonna go under. I think the first 3 games of the season are wins, and then they'll pick up one more. They'll pick up a Big Ten win probably.
Yeah.
But beyond that, they might beat Michigan State. I know for a while it was every year Maryland would upset Michigan State, and many of the years it was to keep Michigan State out of the playoffs or something, or out of the Big Ten championship in the mid-2010s, late 2010s. So I think I'm going to have to go under.
I've got the over. I think they'll get 2 Big Ten wins this year, then get to 5. But I'm not really convinced in that.
Valid. I think I'm also going to take the over. I can just see 2 Big Ten wins. Whether you pick off a Washington or Nebraska at home because while they're better than you, it's nothing crazy. And then I don't think UCLA is going to be great this year either. So finding one of those, on the road, or Rutgers on the road, I think it's doable. So I'll bet in them to hit 5 wins. It's just it's a low mark. Get her done.
Not the lowest in the Big Ten.
It is not the lowest in the Big Ten. That is true.
We are not there yet, but it is coming.
Any guesses, JP, on who the lowest in the Big Ten is? It's pretty easy in my opinion, but
for odds?
Yeah, for win total.
Under,
yeah.
Oh, well, then it's probably the team that's on the bottom of odds.
Yeah.
Which I will add Maryland plays. So that's probably a Big Ten win right there.
Wait, Maryland?
Potentially.
We don't have...
Bottom of the odds is not the team with the lowest win total then.
Interesting.
Bottom of the odds
I guess it would be
Northwestern. Hold on.
Well, you have non-applicable on Rutgers.
Yeah, because it just doesn't exist.
The odds for Rutgers are non-existent because they're in New Jersey or something.
I believe that's correct.
It's basically if Rutgers wins the Big Ten, then the runner-up cashes out.
Interesting.
Yes, Sven, it is Purdue.
Should have put that disclaimer in.
That's my B. Sven, it is the Boilermakers of Purdue. They had the low. Is it 3.5?
It's 3.5 is their win total.
Michigan.
Yep. The Wolverines had a rough year kind of due to their previous standards. Under head coach Sharon Moore, they went 8-5 last year. Played 3 different QBs. None of them played great. The offense was bad. The defense stayed good. It kind of felt like older Michigan teams, unlike the Michigan teams from the past couple years. So they bring Bryce Underwood, the savior of the program, Bryce Underwood, the number 1 player in the nation last year. He's 6'4", 228. Kind of feels like he has everything you want in a QB prospect. And he's technically not been named the starter yet, but he's going to start week 1. He's going to be the guy this season. They're going to throw him in the fire early because they can't really go through another year like last year QB play-wise. JP, you mentioned him earlier, and you said you were going to contradict yourself. So thoughts on Bryce Underwood?
Yeah, I would say you have to start Bryce Underwood this season. He signs a $12 million 4-year deal with Michigan, getting outbidding LSU, which is the reason he's here. Really quick release. His best highlights, they're Lamar-esque. Like they're Lamar high school highlights. It's that kind of tape. He had a lot of design QB runs in high school. He's got all the talent in the world, like you said. And the biggest thing for him is just how is he going to perform? What is he going to be like mentally? Leadership, toughness qualities, all of those are going to have to show. And he'll be put into the bright lights immediately, like you said.
Sure.
He's going to start. I would start him. I think you have to start him. He's better than Mikey Keene, without a doubt. Michigan wants to be competitive this year, and I think Bryce gives you the best chance to do that. But he's going to be tested early. 2 big road games in the first 4 weeks. But I'm excited. I can't wait to watch him play, and I'm really excited and curious to see how he'll perform, especially in the bright moments. Because as soon as you see that, then you really kind of get the taste of, is he as good as the hype?
Yeah.
How does he play in the bright moments? And you can name any of the great college quarterbacks, specifically their quarterback in the first game. Trevor Lawrence was elite. I mean, his game against A&M is really like a huge moment for a freshman, replacing Kelly Bryant and coming in and leading Clemson to a national title.
I was in-house.
Not that Bryce is going to do that, but he could do that.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be, can he perform like Jalen Hurts did, like Trevor Lawrence did in those moments at such a young age?
Yeah. And I mean, around him is it's a very talented team. The infrastructure is in place at Michigan, thanks to Jim Harbaugh. Defensively, they got dogs all over the place. Rod Moore tore his ACL last season, but he's going to be back. Derek Moore on the outside linebacker had 4 sacks last season, is a top 2-round pick. Rashawn Benny is another great player. I mean, they have dogs all on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to have another great defense, in my opinion. Offensively, I am a little worried about Bryce Underwood's weapons. They bring in Justice Hayne to be probably the lead back. He's transferring in from Bama. He had 7 touchdowns with 448 yards there last season. He's like a quasi second back there. I mean, he got a lot of carries. But, wide receivers, though, Samaj Morgan's back. He had 139 yards and 1 TD last season. And then they're bringing in Donovan McCulley from Indiana, who was hurt most of last year, but he's a very talented guy. Are you at all worried about the weapons for Bryce Underwood, that could kind of hinder his growth or hinder his performance year 1? Or do you think he's that good it won't really matter? Or the weapons are just better than I'm making them out to be?
I think a lot of it is going to come down to the weapons are going to be good enough for how good that defense is.
Sure.
I think the defense is going to mean that even with poor weapons, the pressure, you're going to be getting a lot of short fields. You're going to be in games where you only need, 20 points to win. Like you're not like I said earlier about Maryland, actually. No. Iowa. Like you're not going to need 30, 40-point games to win these games because the defense is going to be so good. So I think that the defense, while the weapons may not be the most talented, like you're going to see in the wide receiver room at Ohio State or the transfer portals that Penn State brought in, but I do think that Michigan's defense is going to mean that even with maybe slightly below the top weapons in the Big Ten, they're going to be good enough, and Bryce Underwood is going to have less pressure on him than he would at a different school.
Sure.
But
I
also
think
more pressure. Like I realize that, like not less pressure. Like the pressure is high because it's Michigan and they want to win, but like less immediate. Like you have to go score a lot of points. Go ahead, JP. Sorry.
I think the pressure is on him, and I think he'll rise to it. For them offensively, I'm not even worried about them throwing the ball because I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to lean a ton on the ground game, and then I think their offense, like their explosive plays, are going through Bryce. Like if he can produce the kind of highlights he did in high school, then they are going to be in a good spot. He's going to have multiple 40-yard runs and 20-yard touchdowns. Like, this guy is a running back playing quarterback. I
Yeah.
don't not putting this lightly. Like, he is Lamar-esque highlights. He is unbelievably fast, has a great juke move, great stutter step. And if he can do that at a Big Ten competitive level, then their offense might even become the engine, because that is something that it's not something that is just easily stopped in college. Like, in the NFL, it can be stopped to a degree, but you think of Lamar, you think of Cam Newton, even like that kind of speed and athleticism at the quarterback position is not stopped all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm not even worried necessarily about the weapons. I'm more so worried, can Bryce do what he did in high school at Michigan?
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm not worried about the weapons. I would like them to be better. But I will say, and I'm going to push back against Finn in the chat here, saying Moore will get fired if OU beats them and they don't have a great season. It's Bryce Underwood's first year. Like, this kind of feels like a 3-year project, right? Have a good year one. If things don't necessarily go great, you win 8 games, 9 games, something like that. Who cares, really? You have 2 more years of this guy. He's going to get better. And then I feel like the clock really starts and the pressure really kicks up next year, kind of talking about the pressure. Now, I think he's going to be great too, JP. I don't necessarily think we're going to be in that situation. But I don't really see, Moore getting fired. And if the weapons do end up being an issue this season, you can address it next season and run it back. Will you please scroll down to my Morton's Main Matters segment down here?
Here we go.
Friend of the show, Morton Carter. You may have seen him in chat before as Chromie. Huge Michigan guy. So I texted him and was like, what do I need to look out for? Michigan team, any people you need to step up, people you're looking at. Frederick Moore is someone he's looking at wide receiver to break out, and it would be a breakout. He's not really done much for them in his time there. He's expecting big things from Ernest Hausman, Big Hoss as he called him, at middle linebacker, and has targeted Kendrick Bell, who's a former QB, as another sleeper in the wide receiver core. Michigan has had success transferring positions on players before. Mikey Sanders still was a wide receiver at Michigan before transferring to safety. He's now a dog on my Washington Commanders. Love the guy. His biggest question is how the tight end production looks. They lost Loveland. He went 10th in the draft.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
12th, 10th, somewhere in there.
Top 15, I'll just say that because I know that's for sure.
He went 10th.
10th to Chicago. He was a huge key piece of their offense. Really, their only productive guy last season. Was a great pass catcher at the tight end position. So I was curious how that's replaced. But that right there, those are Morton's main matters for Michigan in 2025.
Over-under is 9.5. So
it's a tough one, man, because I'm really high on Bryce Underwood and I'm really high on Michigan, but it's pretty steep. You're basically saying you can't lose. You lose to Ohio State, you lose to Oklahoma.
Why do they lose to Ohio State?
You're right, they're not going to. I'm taking the over.
Yeah.
They're hitting double-digit wins.
I think I'm also going to take the over. They're going to beat Ohio State. It's in the Big House, right? That's Michigan, or the Big M. What do you get?
It's the Big House.
Big House, yeah. I'll be taking the over. They'll beat Ohio State, and then, yeah, I'm going to take over. I don't want to say undefeated, but Ohio. I feel like if I say they're going to beat Ohio State, that's the hardest game on the schedule. But yeah, I'm going to assume they lose an upset, maybe at USC or at Oklahoma. But I've got them going over at 10 wins.
Yeah, it just honestly looks like a pretty nice schedule.
Yeah,
I like the way it broke for them. So,
JP,
I'm gonna take the under.
Fair.
I think defensively it's being a little bit oversold. I think the talent is there, but I don't think the talent is what the talent was previously. I think they'll take a step back there. If I had to bet, I'd bet that Bryce would be able to do the things that he did in high school. But I'm really curious to see how it perform in some high pressure situations. And until then, I'm not going to be necessarily super high on Michigan. I think rightfully they're a step behind the top 3 in the Big Ten, and I think they'll go 9-3 this year. losing. I mean, Oklahoma, we'll see, considering what the John Mateer situation is. But
For sure.
I think they'll go 9-3 this year.
Yeah. I mean, JP has to come in and ruin our fun, be the voice of reason. But there definitely are some questions. And Sven is right. They lost 2 first-round defensive linemen that they'll have to replace.
Yeah, I'm looking at their recruiting classes. They've got 2 4-star defensive linemen in the class of 24 and 2 more in the class of 2023. So those are guys that are on the roster right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan has churned out defensive linemen, even Aiden Hutchinson, and then the 2 most recent first-round picks. So, and there was a Packer in there somewhere as well. So they have cranked out defensive lineman production.
Rashawn Gary.
Yes, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
You. Good pull. I have a lot of confidence in their ability to maybe not necessarily recreate it perfectly. It might take a small step back. I still think it's going to be a very good defensive line because it's what Michigan does.
Did Devin Bush play at Michigan?
Yes.
And the other Bush played at LSU. Same draft class, I believe.
Other Bush?
Yes. Or the other Devin, maybe.
Devin White?
Yes, I got it was the other Devin, not the other Bush.
Cool. So 2 overs and 1 under on Michigan. We can keep on rolling. Go to their in-state rivals, the Spartans, which have not had the same run of success that Michigan has had, unfortunately. They had a really good season in 2021. Sanders was actually pretty shocked by it when we were looking at it.
I'd forgotten about it.
Yep, it looked like Mel Tucker was going to be the guy, and then Mel Tucker did some nefarious things and gets fired. But they went 5-7 last year under head coach Jonathan Smith. I don't know why I'm talking about Mel Tucker. He's no longer here. But yeah, 5-7 under head coach Jonathan Smith. It was a bit of a disappointing season, I'd say, but it's just he's still kind of laying the groundwork here at Michigan State, trying to rebuild the momentum they had with Mel Tucker. Aiden Childs was the QB last season. He's going to be the QB again this season. Had 2,400 passing yards last season, 13 touchdowns to 11 picks, 59% completion. He's very fast. He's good at extending plays with his legs, being elusive in the pocket. But he's going to have to be better. And to his credit, he's still only 19. He's very young, has a lot of improving and developing he can still do. So, thoughts on Childs?
I mean, it feels like he's been in college football for probably 4 or 5 years. It's crazy. This is only year 3 for him, and that he's still only 19. So, I was watching some of his highlights. I also really do enjoy those. So I'll be excited to see if he can take a step forward. But it looks like they're really going to need to have a better offensive line. That's going to be a big part, a big key development is can they give an opportunity in year 3 to kind of develop and improve. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. JP, what are your thoughts on Childs?
He's not a good quarterback. He's a great athlete, but he's not a good quarterback. The footwork isn't necessarily there. The mechanics isn't great. He loves throwing on the run, and he just loves running in general.
Yeah.
And then he'll make some bonehead decisions. He had 11 picks last year, but like for me, he's just not accurate. That shows in completion percentage at 59.4. It's very low for a quarterback. But he's talented, and I like you say, he's got a chance to develop. But man, I'm just gonna have to see it before I believe it. That this guy's among even the top half of quarterbacks in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think most people were disappointed by his play last season because they expected him to. You say he's not a quarterback. I think they expected him to become a quarterback last year, and that still hasn't happened. So now we're just still waiting, on it. It's like a Robbie Ashford at Wake Forest, though he's not a 6-year senior, whatever Robbie Ashford is. He's still got some time. Yeah, they only scored 17.5 points per game last season, which was good for 126th in the FBS. Poor
Out of
QB.
134 teams last year?
Correct. Not great, not where you want to be.
Not at all.
State fans would know.
Yes, we are in the 120s in a lot of defensive statistical categories.
Correct. But Childs was part of the problem. Weapons weren't great. The O-line you mentioned was really bad, and they're looking to revamp the group with 3 transfers. One guy from the FCS ranks, and then Matt Golbin from Wake Forest is coming in, and Luka Vincic from Oregon State. Both grade out pretty well. They're going to try and improve the group. I do really like Nick Marsh. I believe he was a freshman last year. He's coming to his sophomore season. There were a lot of really good freshman wide receivers last year. Talking about like Cam
Yeah.
Coleman, Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith, obviously. I think he flies a little under the radar because the QB situation, the overall offense is not there. But I think he's a really nice weapon for Childs, someone that, Childs can kind of work and build chemistry with. And if Childs ever decides to become a quarterback, like JP said, that's a good option there. And then Jack Veling came with Jonathan Smith from Oregon State, and he's a good weapon. He's their top draft prospect, 6'5", had 411 receiving yards and 1 TD last season. So there's some pieces here and there, but overall recruiting trends aren't great. That finished 8th out of 18th in the transfer portal rankings for the Big Ten this past season. I just overall don't feel like it's the best group, and I really do think it hinges on Child's ability to become a quarterback, as I've said multiple times, as JP said. So can we get the over-under?
Over-under is 5.5, so pretty low over-under.
Especially
But
will they
it's
make a
also-
bowl game?
Yeah. They've got 3 preseason ranked opponents on their schedule at Indiana and then Michigan and Penn State, both at home. They go to Iowa. They get to avoid Ohio State. They avoid Oregon. I think
I'm taking the under.
I'm taking the under. They still have to play USC on the road. They go to Nebraska, at Iowa. Yeah, I'm going to take the under as well. JP?
I'm going to take the over personally. I think Jonathan Smith is going to be building something here. And last year was only his first year.
Yeah.
They went 5-7, and a lot of new transfers and a lot of new pieces. I think another year with Aiden Childs, they'll continue to improve there. And I think they'll pull a couple technically upsets because they're not favored in games. But I don't think they'll beat any of the elite class.
No.
But I think they'll make a bowl game at 6-6.
Fair. I agree. I do think Jonathan Smith is the guy here long term. I just think it personally might take a little longer. But 2 unders and 1 over as we move on to Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. They went 8-5 last year. The Minnesota Golden Gophers, that is. Their head coach is PJ Fleck. Start with PJ Fleck. Has been there for 9 years and won over 60% of his games. There's only like 7 other coaches that currently fit that bill in college football, and they're guys like Kirby Smart, the cream of the crop. So how do y'all rank PJ Fleck in terms of college coaches? Like, how do you view him as like a good coach, a great coach, elite coach?
I'm going to start
Personally, you hate the guy, wish he got fired, never coached again. Like, where are we at?
I'm going to start with where I have him ranked first, and that's how he dresses. The
Yeah.
dude shows up in a button-down tie and, like, pullover, like, nice pullover, quarter zip, and it is fire. He looks so clean. Love how he dresses. That's something that my mom and dad were always like, oh, this is how you should dress. But no, he's been a staple of college football over the last 10 years, like you said, winning 60% of his games. And has put together some good Minnesota teams.
Yeah.
Some teams that would, get an upset here and there, but never like super impressive. But I would definitely put him up there. And I think that if you put him in a different situation, I think as far as coaching goes, he's been a very good coach to get kids to come play in Minnesota and play football and win games in the Big Ten. So I would put him up there as a top, probably 2015, top 15 coach.
Cool.
In college football.
Yeah, I mean, he always has his team punching above their weight. But JP, thoughts on Fleck?
No, he's solid. He's had good competitive years at Minnesota. Their 2019 team would have made the playoff. They were 11-2. If we were in a 12-team playoff at that point, I think he would have gotten more praise, and he'd be thought about more. Got a great personality. I like him as a coach.
Cool. Yeah, Drake Lindsey is going to be the QB of this team most likely. Do you mind scrolling back up so I can see his stats? Sorry. Redshirt freshman, 3-star out of high school, kind of your more standard pocket passer, not really the most mobile. I'm not saying he's, I don't know, I'm trying to think. He's not Jared Stidham in the pocket or whatever, but, just your pocket passer archetype. He's going to lead the team. He's inexperienced, so there is a question mark there. He typically, PJ Fleck being key, rolls with more experienced guys. But once again, he always finds the guys to get the job done. So he's going to be there. Darius Taylor's back at running back. He had 986 yards and 10 touchdowns last season. To go with 350 receiving yards. Very physical back. Will probably get drafted at the end of next season. But then I want to transition to the defense where the best player on this team is in Coy Parrish. Free safety. 28 solo tackles, 5 picks last season, 88.9 coverage grade per PFF, returns punts and kicks as well. Also didn't start the season, so like if 28 tackles, maybe not really that high.
Yeah.
5 picks, that's good, but nothing crazy. But he didn't start because he was a true freshman last year. He's only going into his sophomore season.
Wow.
But he's a star. He'll probably be a first-round draft pick in the 2027 draft, just looking forward. He's a joy to watch. He's the best player on this team, in my opinion. Any thoughts on Coy Parrish, either of y'all?
No, I mean, I haven't heard of him until now, so that's really cool. I love a good safety. Love seeing Kyle Hamilton, get drafted where he did, and the show he's put on. I love watching good safeties play football, so I'll have to keep my eye out for this guy now.
Sure. Yeah, I think something to watch going into this year, just another point I want to bring up. PJ Fleck's teams have really been built on the rushing attack most seasons. It's kind of his bread and butter. They weren't really great running the ball last season, only 115.6 yards per game. The past 3 years, they've averaged 152 yards per game. So they're going to be looking to take that step back up and get their rushing attack back to above average to really good, because it's what they rely on. And they did go 8-5 last year, but it's hard. They built the sustained success on the running attack. They're going to need it to get back to that level. So thoughts on them? Their win total is 6.5.
I want to talk about what
Sure.
Sven said about PJ Fleck and how the Gophers hang in that second row in the Big Ten and can never beat the big dogs. I think they're okay with that.
I agree completely.
Not necessarily resigned to it, like accepted their fate, but like they are okay with going 7-5, 8-4, 9-3, and then maybe occasionally you pop out a 10-win season, and now a 10-win season gets you in the playoff. I think they're all right with that. I think Minnesota fans love PJ Fleck. I mean, we already talked about how much we like him as a coach. So I do, yes, they are that second tier in the Big Ten, but not everybody can be a part of the first tier. And I think that Minnesota is in a healthy position in that second tier.
Yeah, I agree. There's no reason they should want. I mean, okay, you should want to be one of the elite teams, but there's no reason they should expect to be or get greedy with their success. They just need to enjoy the winning season after winning season, the bowl game victories, the rivalry victories under PJ Fleck, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just enjoy all of that, and then, maybe occasionally have your year where you kind of make a run.
The recruiting grounds and the resources are not what they need to be for Minnesota to just fling themselves in that upper tier. And Tucker's right. It's kind of the ceiling. I think the ceiling for Minnesota is an occasional 10-win season. Yeah. And I think that's perfectly fine. For a lot of schools, that would be awesome. So I don't think that they're too upset about that. Over-under is 6.5, which we're just talking about, 8, 9, 10-win seasons, 6.5. So it's a lot lower than that. Some of that it's not a particularly tough schedule. They've got Ohio State and Oregon on it. But other than that, it doesn't look to be the hardest. JP, what are you thinking over-under? 6.5.
Well, it's the quarterback.
It's a big worry.
A freshman, 3-star. Now, Drake looks the part, 6'5". He played at Fayetteville High School in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's kind of a culture shock, I'd assume, moving up to Minnesota. But he fits the eye, but 3-star talent is the big question there. And I think that's why your win total is where it's at. And then they were going to lose the Ohio State-Oregon game anyway, but they're both on the road. Those are obviously not going to be fun for the Golden Gophers. I'm going to take them to go under. I think PJ Flex gets them to a bowl game, but I just don't. From what I saw, I don't see Drake winning 7 Big Ten games in his first year as a starter.
I mean, he doesn't have to win 7 Big Ten games, but he will have to win.
Games in general,
he will have to win multiple. I think that's fair. I'm going to just bank on PJ Fleck, more with less, and he can get it done. Get him to 7 wins. I don't expect this to be one of their high-end years under him, but another solid year. I'm
also gonna go over, and I think that having Ohio State and Oregon on the road plays to their benefit. You would love to not have them on the schedule, but it's a lot better having them on the road than at home, and then you go to Nebraska and you go to Wisconsin. So if you're gonna have them on the schedule, I think that you kind of just have to admit that those teams far are far superior as far as talent goes. Maybe not necessarily coaching, but you are not winning that game in all likelihood unless they throw up the worst performance of all time and everything clicks for you. So you write those off as losses, and now it's like, well, what's the difference? Like, let's just go lose on the road and then come home,
Sure.
and now we have a chance against Wisconsin and Nebraska. I'm going to take the over. I think that part of the schedule does play to their advantage. And then, like we've been talking about PJ Fleck, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt about putting up another good season with less.
Well, I mean, his close alone gives him an extra win.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. It is fire.
That right there is the difference. Moving on to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Is this year 3 under Matt Rule?
It's
Year 3, yes.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, they went 7-6 last season under head coach Matt Rule. They're looking to take a jump this year. It's year 3. Kind of the time is now. I was talking earlier about how Underwood, it's his freshman year, right? So if things aren't amazing this year, no sweat. We'll run it back next year, try and improve the roster around him, and then take a year 2 jump. Well, that's kind of where Nebraska is, in my opinion. It's like, okay, the time's now to take a jump. Raiola was supposed to be their version of Bryce Underwood, the guy to come in and save the program. Well, they go 7-6 year 1. Raiola's numbers in his freshman year, he had 2,800 passing yards, 13 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, with a 68% completion grade. Really struggled against man, which I think is partially due to his weapons not being great, but he still forced some throws, which is why he had 11 picks. All in all, how would y'all grade his freshman year? What do y'all expect in year 2 for Raiola?
You got it, JP.
Or I will.
Well, I know they're gonna. I know they're gonna be good. I'll go ahead and tell you that
Yeah.
because it's Matt Rule. It's year 3 at Temple. 2-10 year 1, 6-6 year 2, 10-4 year 3. At Baylor, 1-11, 7-6, 11-3. Now here at Nebraska, 5-7, 7-6.
At the Carolina
so-
Panthers.
Well, it's only
The
a college
science-
rule.
I
It's a
know,
college
I know.
rule.
The science would say they're due for 10 wins this year, and they've got the schedule it's certainly possible for them. Dylan, I need to just see. I want to see him consistently accomplish the little things. The completion percentage was there, but he's Mahomes 2.0 without the winning, the solid fundamentals, the leadership, the intangibles, and the aura.
Yeah.
He has none of those.
Ooh, tough.
So I just want to see him win the little ones, make the 3-yard completions, make the 5-yard completions. He's got the arm talent. He's got all the arm angles. He can make some ridiculous throws. But in order for Nebraska to win a bunch of games this year, he's got to just be consistent, and we haven't seen that yet
Sure.
from him. Now he's still young, sophomore year now, so he's got room to improve, and you would expect that maybe there is a jump there for him. But the science says the Nebraska is due for 10 wins this year, and I can't disagree with science.
Yeah, I mean, why would you? In terms of Raiola, I think he'll be helped in a year 2 jump. Ja'Cory Barney's back. Also was a freshman last year, but he had 447 yards. And then they bring in Dane Key from Kentucky to be their number 1 wide receiver out wide. He had 715 yards and 2 TDs there last season. 6'3", very physical, can make plays. They also beef up the offensive line in the transfer portal, bringing in Rocco Spindler from Notre Dame and then Elijah Pritchett, a tackle from Bama. Pritchett necessarily wasn't great at Bama, but he has a lot of tools. He's very touted. Some people think he'll get drafted. But those 2 guys should help the offensive line because the offense really wasn't great last year. They only scored 22.4 points a game. They were 120th in the FBS in red zone conversion at 73.47, which JP, I think, points a lot to Raiola not being consistent enough, not doing the little things well enough because everything tightens up in the red zone. So they just really struggled to get the job done there. But I agree. I may be biased. He's my fantasy QB.
you love him.
I don't know if I love him, but
What do you call him?
Ravioli.
Ravioli.
Yeah,
That's what.
that's
it
my
is.
boy Ravioli. But my fate is tied to him at this
Yeah.
point in the keeper league or in the college dynasty league. So I am biased in thinking that he will take a year 2 jump, I guess. But I also objectively think he can do that because he really does have all the talent, like you said. Sanders, your thoughts on this team, their additions?
I wanted to go back to what JP said about his
Sure.
aura and ask what percentile aura would you give him, JP? Are we 90, 95th percentile? That's really good. What are we thinking percentile? I'm not going to ask you to straight up rank, where in the Big Ten, but like out of let's say Big Ten quarterbacks, what or let's go FBS or P4 quarterbacks, what percentile is his aura?
Negative.
Negative?
That's tough.
You can't have
Yeah,
negative
'cause
percentile.
Copycat's a bad
does,
look.
Yeah, it is. It is
because
rough.
He's got reverse aura.
Oh, reverse. Okay, cool. So negative percentile from him. The over. Let's move over under 7.5. I think you see their schedule almost plays out the opposite way as Minnesota's that we just talked about, where some of their toughest or some of their tough opponents are at home. They do go to Penn State, but they bring Michigan is at home, and then USC is at home. They have to go to Maryland and to Minnesota. I'm probably going to go. I got to go over because of the science. JP, you took it. I mean, I was really looking at the the numbers about Matt Rule's year 3. It's such a funny rule, but I think that I'm going to go over because of that.
Yeah. Their defense may be a little worse this year. I expect them to still be pretty good against the run. But that schedule looks great in relation to the over. So I'm going to smash the over. Getting Cincinnati as your out-of-conference Power 5 at a neutral site, I think they're a lot better than Cincinnati. I think they'll win that. You beat Akron. You beat Houston Christian. You're already 3-0. And then you really only have 2 tough games left on your schedule, like really tough games. They're Big Ten football games.
Yeah.
But in Michigan and then at Penn State, and I think you could knock Michigan off. It's a home game, so I think it sets up really well for them to have a big year 3. It's science. Matt Rule year 3, it should be really good. JP, I already know you're taking the over, but if you want to give extra thoughts on it, you can.
Over, I think it's one of the best bets in all of college football for win totals this year.
Do you have any units on it?
I wish, but if I was in Tennessee right now, I would.
Cool. Will you have units on it at some point?
That feels unlikely, but
Tough.
maybe if I go offshore again, I'm considering that right now.
Well, you can always just send a little Venmo transaction to somebody and
Be sure to label it sports betting.
Yeah.
Nebraska over under, so everyone knows what it's for.
I've been since that controversy, I've turned all my Venmo transactions to private.
Smart.
For that reason.
Mine are already private. I don't know.
Planning on going out for D1 ball, JP? Walking on somewhere?
No, I just people don't need to see where I'm sending and receiving money from.
It is kind of weird that you kind of forget that just anyone, not if you turn it off, but if it's public, anyone can see your Venmo. Chromie, unfortunately, I do not think. Well, I mean, Scott Frost could win Coach of the Year in the Big 12. I do not think he will be winning Big 10 Coach of the Year. So Sven
Well,
is right there.
He just said Coach of the Year. There's no he's about to win College Football Coach of the Year.
Is that's the thing?
I'm pretty sure there's an award for best coach.
Okay. I know I'm pretty sure there's conference awards. I couldn't remember if there was a national award. So
Very low though.
the odds are very low. Let's see what else is he sent a chicken emoji. I think we've caught up everything in chat.
Yes, agreed.
We can move on to after we've addressed the John Mateer. I mean, we'll do a whole 15 minutes on that when we do our SEC preview on Monday. So we can move on to Northwestern.
The Northwestern Wildcats went 4-8 last year under head coach David Braun. Not a great year for them. Their QB position was kind of a mess. Y'all's boy started some for them.
Oh yeah, Mike Wright.
Yep, Mike Wright,
Michael.
the legend himself, who is now I actually forget where he's at. Frick, where did he go?
Was it
ECU, the Pirates.
Thank you, yep.
Yes.
He's now at ECU, but they bring in Preston Stone, a quarterback from SMU, who actually started the year for SMU before getting benched a couple games in. And he was actually pretty good before he got benched, which is why a lot of people were really confused by the benching for Kevin Jennings. But yeah, he threw for 421 yards and 5 touchdowns last year in very limited playing time. Thoughts on Preston Stone? I easily think he's an upgrade from the 2 people that they had starting for him last year. Even if he's not fantastic or anything, he's consistent. We've seen him be great before in 2023. So thoughts on him?
He is a huge upgrade. I watched Mike Wright play in person, and we talked about this on another show. It was just a constant back and forth between put in Mike Wright, he has to be better than Chris Parson, and then Mike Wright would go out there. JP talks about his perfect throw against the Arkansas game. JP, can you tell your perfect throw story? It's beautiful.
Yeah, Mike Wright rolls out for first start against the Arkansas Razorbacks. First play of the game for both teams. They run a little rollout smash concept. Mike rolls out right, great footwork, delivers a perfect ball. Sideline catch, toe tap to an Arkansas Razorback on the first play of the game. Not a good
Man.
look. The rest of the game was not any more fun.
Thank you, JP. Yeah, I would be an upgrade over Mike Wright, in my opinion. And, I mean, Sven's on it, too. It was bad QB play last year, so just about anything will be an upgrade from that.
Yeah, overall, though, I'm still not entirely sure how much that's going to matter for this team. It's not the most talented group. They do bring in Griffin Wild from South Dakota State. He comes back and pairs up with his old OC and Zach Lujan. He had 1,154 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns at the FCS level last year. So he's going to look to be maybe a top weapon for Preston Stone if he can make the jump. As always, in Northwestern fashion, think about like Rashawn Slater. They have a good offensive tackle in Caleb Tiernan. He had an 88.9 pass blocking grade last season, according to PFF. He's projected top 3-round pick. Aiden Hubbard is a pretty good edge rusher. He had 6 sacks off the edge. But aside from a couple pieces here and there, it's not really the best overall unit. They only scored 16.6 points per game last year, which was 129th in the FBS. So are we looking at another rebuilding year for Northwestern? What are the thoughts here?
Go ahead, JP.
Ever since the loss of Pat Fitzgerald because of the hazing thing, I just don't think this is ever going to be a program that's successful. Pat was probably going to be fired anyway. In his last 4 seasons, he was 1-8 in the Big Ten 3 of those 4 years.
Sure.
But I just don't think this is ever going to be a program that can build. Now they're putting a ton of money into it, especially with the building of a new stadium. But I think we're many years away from this being a program that has the success that they've had previously.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it's putting it lightly, calling it a rebuilding year. It just is like too disrespectful to be like it's just a bad year for Northwestern.
Like rebuilding implies that you are going to improve going forward.
I mean, that's their hope. They are looking to rebuild, but I agree. It's just, I mean, their recent recruiting trends, even they were 17th of 18th in the Big Ten recruiting rankings in 2024 and 2025, and they brought in the worst transfer class this year, according to 247. So it's just really not great. I do think Preston Stone will be better than who they had last year. I just don't think it's going to matter. And so we're going to move on to the win total.
Yeah, win total 3.5. Sven's got them going over. He said 4-8 max.
So they were tied with Purdue. So JP was right.
Yeah, you were right, JP. Our apologies. Purdue just stands out as the worst in the Big Ten in our brain. But Northwestern,
they do play, I will say, which is fire.
That is so.
At Northwestern,
Big Ten scheduling
Week
blessing
8.
us. Yeah. At Penn. Yeah. I don't even know why I'm looking at the Northwestern is the team where we don't even need to look at the good. We need to look at the bad teams and see if they can win those games.
It comes down to, do you think, to hit the over at 3.5, do you think Purdue or Northwestern wins that game is how it feels? Or do you think, well, they play at Tulane, though. Hold on.
I've got them losing to Tulane.
Yeah, wait.
I'm taking the under because they go to Tulane. I think they could beat Purdue. I don't think it matters. I've got them losing to Tulane. So they're going to, win 2 out-of-conference games and then Purdue and go under. So I've got them going 3-9.
That just feels so disrespectful, but I'll take the under.
Under as well.
Man.
That's tough.
We can move on. Yeah, I feel disrespectful, but I'm not really sure there are Northwestern football fans.
Didn't they just get a bunch of really nice facilities?
Well, yeah, that's what JP was talking about. Their stadium will be ready next year, but they're playing at this current lakeside venue.
Yeah,
you remember that?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah. Now we get to 3 heavy hitters in a row. Kind of the 3 top dogs of the conference currently. The 3 elite teams, I guess you could say. Ohio State is the first up. Number 3 in the preseason AP poll. They went 14-2 last year. They're your reigning national champions. Ryan Day finally gets it done most of the way. He can't beat Michigan still. But he got the crown jewel. He got the biggest prize. And with that being said, they lost a ton off that team. Will Howard's gone, their quarterback. They lose their running back, Travion Henderson. He's gone. They lost both their edge rushers and Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimalau. A ton of pieces gone. They lost Emeka Ibuka. I mean, I could just keep rattling off names of talented guys. But yet they recruit so well. They hit the transfer portal so well. It's another loaded group. They have 6 top 200 players on PFF's big board. But the biggest piece, the key piece, the success of the season hinges on if Julian Sayin is ready to take the reins at quarterback. Former 5-star, he's a redshirt freshman, very smart quarterback. Thoughts on him, though, JP Sanders?
I don't know. I haven't. JP, I don't know why I spoke up. I was going to say, JP, would you like to say something?
Yeah. The mechanics do not impress me. He's got a ton of time to improve. But I'll go ahead and tell you right now, this doesn't feel like he would ever be an Ohio State quarterback draft pick. And that has been what these past 5 to 7 years with Ryan Day have been
Sure.
Ohio State quarterback draft picks. He doesn't feel like that. He's listed at 6'1". Their own announcing team for Ohio State during their spring game said he looks more like he's 5'11", 6 foot.
That's tough.
He's very clearly undersized, too, when you see him play. In the spring game, he had 2 batted down balls at the line of scrimmage. I think that's a potential struggle for them. He's not athletically gifted, so he's not escaping any of these pass rushes in the Big Ten. The pass rush of Texas in that opener.
Yeah.
He throws a accurate ball, but it's not necessarily the strongest ball. I know Josh Pate is really high on him. A lot of people are high on him. He can throw the ball far. He just doesn't necessarily throw lasers. So I think we're in for this feels like a potential the other quarterback might start, which is I think Tavian St. Clair has a chance to quickly become the starter for Ohio State. He's a dual threat 5-star who was the number 4 recruit in the nation in this last class and the number 3 quarterback. Yep. He's also an Ohio kid. Sayin's a California kid. I think St. Clair's got a good chance to start at some point this season if something just doesn't go right for Julian. And I think it could even happen in the Texas game. Josh Pate brought up an example specifically on a show, and I've already brought it up earlier today. For Alabama, the year Jalen Hurts came in, he replaced their starting quarterback midway through the first game against USC that was on the neutral site in Dallas, and then he kind of took off from there. We could be in for a similar story with Tavian St. Clair, and it hurts me saying that because Julian Sayin is my starting quarterback in the College Football Fantasy League, so I would like for him to do well over the next 2 years. And he's never started, and we haven't seen any of that yet, so he could completely prove us wrong, and he will have the chance to in that Texas game. But I'll go and tell you, he doesn't pass the eye test for me right now.
You heard it here.
That's concerning for an Ohio State quarterback.
Yeah. You heard it here first. JP's not impressed. Tucker, I guess it is true. He's technically not been named the starter. But putting together the list, I think he's going to be the starter. I kind of made that read. But JP laid it out perfectly. He may not start even the whole year. I just think he has the leg up. Yeah. Just kind of being already in-house for longer.
That being said, we have missed 2 reads so far already.
Yeah, but they're like, I guess you're right. I have 2 strikes. So this could be my third strike.
Do. I would have been like as a podcast.
Smaller programs. It's harder to tell.
I want to say.
Go ahead.
To push back on that though, he doesn't have to be anything special this year because they are insanely talented, especially from an offensive perspective, with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Max Clare, the transfer from Purdue. James Peoples at running back, I think is going to be really, really good for them this year. Another great Ohio State running back. And with the defense still having the talent that it does, he doesn't have to be excellent, but he might have to be in that first game against Texas. And that's where my concern comes in. Will they be calling for it immediately? Because you don't just lose in the shoe. I don't care if you're playing the number one team in the nation. Ohio State fans are going to be upset if you lose in the shoe on opening day.
Yeah, because also, I mean, they're the reigning champs, so even if they don't have the number one next to their name, they feel like they're the best team. Their fans do, and they have some validation there. But I agree, the weapons are great. You have probably the best wide receiver in college football.
Mm-hmm.
Max Clare was a great pickup from Purdue. He's a great receiving tight end. The defense did lose a lot, but Caleb Downs is still here, probably the best defender in the college football. Sonny
he's
Styles,
the number one overall on PFF's big board.
Sonny Styles is a tackling machine at linebacker. Jermaine Matthews and Davidson, I don't even know how you say that last name, Igbinosun. They're both cornerbacks that'll probably get drafted next year. So make a good point. He just kind of has to manage, but at the same time, he can't because of the Texas game being week 1. If I had to point out a flaw of this team, aside from maybe question marks at quarterback, their offensive line actually struggled some last year. Do you mind scrolling down real quick?
Yep.
They were 97th as a unit in pass blocking last season, and they lost 3 starters, Donovan Jackson, Josh Simmons, who did get hurt towards the end of last year, and then Seth McLaughlin, their center. So they're going to have to rebuild that unit quickly. And they have talent, but talent doesn't always work out on the offensive line. It doesn't necessarily always gel, and especially starting a new quarterback, you would really like that to be a group that has gelled and can protect them really well and also get good push in the run game to help out. If the running game is going strong, it makes it really easy on the quarterback. So that's something to look out for, is how the offensive line performs for these new quarterbacks. With that being said, the over-under is 10.5. How are we feeling on that?
I think I'm going to go – I think I see another 10-win season on the schedule. I think I'm going the under, and they're going to go 10 wins. They could – I think I would right now pick them to lose to Texas, and so they could go under and still make the Big Ten championship and still get a bye in the playoffs. So I'm going to go under just with the Penn State game and at Michigan. That's one loss, so then they have to beat Texas and Penn State, which are at home, but I've got them losing at least one of those. JP?
I think the value is taking the over, but I'm going to take the under. I think they go 11-1, losing one of those 3 big games, whichever one you want to pick. It really doesn't matter. I think it's possible to lose any of those. And I don't have them personally making the Big Ten title game. I think it's going to be Penn State and Oregon.
Wow.
Who we'll get into here soon. Now, for it to be Penn State and Oregon, it's going to be tough with the tiebreakers, but that'll have to play out some way. But I think they're the 3rd team in the Big Ten. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the worst. They're not going to perform well. I mean, last year they were the 3rd team in the Big Ten and won the championship. They were not in the Big Ten championship game last year.
Yeah.
So the path is there with the 12-team playoff, and with the talent they have, the season I don't think matters for them. I think it's just make the playoff, and you can have a chance to go on a run from there.
It's make the playoff and beat Michigan.
Yeah.
You got to beat Michigan.
That's the biggest game of the year. That's the only game that matters. But Ryan Day's got the monkey off his back from a national title perspective. And so I think that'll free him up a ton, and I think he'll stay motivated still. But the large part of the motivation comes for Week 14 and the Saturday following Thanksgiving against Michigan.
I'm also going to take the over. I don't feel like there's any way to feel great about taking a 10.5 over, but this team is just so talented, so I'll take the over at 10.5. I don't see an undefeated season, but 11 wins is what I'm banking on.
Yeah, Sven, that Penn State game is a home game. I don't know. You said that's a loss at Penn State. They get Penn State and Texas. Their only challenge on the road, I would say, is at Michigan.
Which they very easily could lose to Penn State in the shoe.
They absolutely could lose to Penn State. that being a home game.
Yeah.
I still have them losing one of either Penn State or Texas and then at Michigan. So I 100% agree they could lose.
They're losing week 5 to Washington.
All right. And we'll end the video can end right there with you saying that. And then the Ohio State fans can jump on you and be like, what? Oregon.
I somehow don't have Oregon's record.
They
Their
went
2024 record.
11 and 12 and 0.
No, because they lost.
11 and 1. Lost. No, they didn't. Who'd they lose to?
Well, I mean, they lost in the
Oh, yeah. Okay.
playoffs
Okay. Sorry.
and stuff.
So 13
They were
and
13-1.
Yeah.
13-1 in 2024, led by head coach Dan Lanning. Great season for them in kind of their inaugural Big Ten season. Good start, showing that they can hang in this more physical conference, which is not surprising. They recruit well enough to hang in a more physical conference. That Nike money goes a long, long way. But anyway, they go 13-1, but they do lose their quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, and they're replacing with a younger guy who transferred in from UCLA at the start of last season, Dante Moore, who in 9 games at UCLA had, or is that his? No, that's his stats at Oregon this past year.
No, that was it.
That is at UCLA. In 9
freshman
games at UCLA freshman year, he had 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks, 14 yards per completion. Not great, solid, but he's now in a much better situation. So thoughts on Dante Moore? I have heard Austin Novosad is pushing him a lot in fall ball and camp. I still think Dante Moore is going to start, but that's just a little tidbit for you, I guess. I know he's your guy, Sanders.
He is. He is my quarterback in our college keeper league, and I think I'm gonna have to. I don't know his name off the top of my head. Oregon had a 4 or 5 star quarterback come in as an early enrollee in the winter.
He went to Cal.
Yes, and transferred out in like 2 weeks. And this was, I remember Josh Pate talking about this. This was a high profile guy who comes in early as an enrollee to compete for the starting job and sees Dante Moore play football for 2 weeks and transfers out. And I think that's one of like the biggest signs of like how I think this is Dante Moore's job, and how I think that he could be really good in this offense is if you've got a guy dipping like that after a couple weeks. So I'm really excited to see him play. His play at UCLA was definitely not like impressive or blowing away for the profile recruit that he was, but he's 2 years older now. He's been in Dan Lanning's scheme for, this is year 2, right? Year
Yes,
year
like
2.
his second year at Oregon. Yeah.
So he's going into his red shirt junior year. So he's older. This is your classic, like, he did it a little bit differently, but 10 years ago, guys rode the bench behind the starter and then took over. A lot less of this just transferring up from the lower levels. So Dante Moore I feel like that his story is similar to a mid-2010s quarterback as opposed to a 2024 quarterback where he found his place and then waited for his opportunity, and now his opportunity is here. I'm excited to see what he can do with it. I think he's got, unfortunately, with the injury to
Evan Stewart.
Thank you, Achilles or ACL?
Patellar. He ripped his patellar tendon.
Yeah, that was a really tough loss, but they bring in a 5-star true freshman, DeCorian Moore, who's the number 1 wide receiver in his class. They bring in Mekhi Hughes from Tulane, who was a very good running back there, 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns. So I'm really excited to see what Dante Moore can do with these weapons and in Dan Lanning's offense that's now pumped out 2 Heisman finalists or 2 very good quarterbacks. I don't know if they're both Heisman finalists.
They were Heisman finalists.
Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel have been 2 fantastic quarterbacks the past 2 years.
Yeah, it's interesting because those are huge shoes to fill. And he's not necessarily the exact same quarterback as them. They were your nice, pretty safe, made all the throws, accurate, didn't leave much on the table. But, I mean, Bo Nix had a pretty good arm. Dylan Gabriel's arm, was just kind of average in terms of talent and power. Dante Moore has a little more oomph in his arm than those guys. But big shoes to fill. Can he be that accurate? I mean, that's kind of what their offense has been predicated on is high completion percentage, guys getting open, intermediate throws, and then the running game. And I love Mekhi Hughes from Tulane, but I'm personally a little worried about their wide receiver weapons. DeCorian Moore is a true freshman. We have had a good run of success with true freshman wide receivers recently being great out of the gates, but that's not always the case.
Yeah.
I think losing Evan Stewart's pretty big. I think there's questions to be answered there to go with a new quarterback. Their offensive line should be pretty good. Isaiah World is transferring in from Nevada.
You didn't say Aggie legend. Isn't he an Aggie legend?
Who?
Evan Stewart?
He is. He's not an Aggie legend, though.
Oh, my bad.
It's very hard for me not to say Aggie legend about a guy. He's not an Aggie legend. Him
wow.
getting hurt is tough, and I do wish him the best. I think the bread and butter of this team is going to be their defense. They bring in Dylan Thieneman from Purdue as a safety. He's fantastic. He's going to get drafted probably in the first round. He has 70 solo tackles last year and 7 passes defended. Actually took a drop last season in terms of grades because he had to play more like strong safety. He's a big single high free safety guy, and I think Dan Lanning will love that. Mateo Uyungale, edge rusher, projected top 60 pick, had 10.5 sacks last year. I think their defense is going to be the calling card of this team, at least initially as the offense kind of figures out how to get things going. Thoughts on that, JP?
I think Mateo is a good season away from being an end of first round pick.
Yep.
Because that is pass rushers are a premium and they are drafted very high. We've seen that in previous years. Defensively, they're going to rely on it a ton. Going back to the offense, I understand the concerns with weapons and everything. I think Dan Lanning's too good of a coach to allow this offense to be really poor.
I mean, it's not going to be poor, but it's just been so good.
I understand, but to do that, I think he is not going to run the same offense he has done with Bo Nix and Gabriel, who are kind of game managers and are putting the football in the right spot at the right time. I think this is going to become a ground and pound kind of offense with explosive plays over the top. And that is what Dante is going to be really productive with, I think, which is why I feel like Oregon makes the Big Ten title game again. Dante, 14 yards per completion last year. Or not last year, but at UCLA in his freshman year. For context, Will Howard threw for 12.5 yards per completion last year for Ohio State. So that's above that with the UCLA level of talent. And that was as a true freshman as well. He's now in his redshirt sophomore season. I like Mekhi Hughes a ton, but I think this is going to be an offense that's going to run the ball a ton, a lot of read option, and then they're going to go for explosive plays over the top. And DeCorian Moore, the true freshman, is a speed threat. He is really, really fast. So I think he's got a chance to put up plays like a la Ryan Williams last year.
He's going to have every opportunity to, for sure.
Exactly, with the explosive plays over the top. I think they lose one game this season, and that's at Penn State in the whiteout. I just don't see a way where Dante Moore pulls off that win. The only way I see them winning that game is if Penn State loses that game. But I don't expect that from Penn State. Every other game on the schedule is they're going to win. They're going to go 11-1 this year. And I think they're in that Big Ten title game. I'm really interested to see how Dante blossoms and see if he can live up to the recruiting profile that he once was.
Sure. And, I mean, even if the offense starts slow, like I'm afraid they might, they have a pretty easy first 4 weeks, all things considered. Now, Penn State is their first true test, and the whiteout game is a night game. Which has not necessarily been the case. You know, these big profile games for Penn State have been the big noon game, but they actually get a whiteout game against a great team at night, so that'll be a ton of fun, and it'll be a really tough first test for Dante Moore. But the over-under's at 10.5. JP, we already know you're taking the over. You have them going 11-1.
I've also got it. While you think I've got to take the over, I've got them going. I was thinking the exact same thing. The only game I see them losing on this schedule is at Penn State. And to answer Tucker's question, we could talk about this, or you want to give let's. So he asked if we see Oregon as on the same level as Penn State and Ohio State, where we pencil them for double-digit wins every year without much thought. I think so. They've now gotten to double-digit wins the last 2 seasons, going 12-0 in the regular season last year. Their recruiting has been first in the Big Ten, second in the Big Ten the last 2 years, first the highest-rated Big Ten transfer portal this year. I don't think Dan Lanning is slowing down. I think that they are very much penciled in for 10 wins at this point, unless they get some horrific draw of a Big Ten schedule where they draw like an Ohio State, Oregon, and Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan in 1 year. I've got them going double-digit wins every year.
Yeah, I'll take the over here, even with my concerns. I think the defense is going to be that good that even if the offense sputters a little bit, which they may not, like y'all are talking about, I'll take the over and have them get to 11 wins. But they are losing at Washington the last week of the season, just saying.
So you've got them beating Penn State and losing to Washington.
Yes.
All right, cool. He thinks Lanning is a superstar, and with Oregon money, it would take a disaster for them to not at least be in the playoff discussion. Yeah, for sure.
Should have come to A&M, though. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't see them slowing down at any point.
On to the third of what I would consider the three big dogs in the Big Ten this season. Would you all agree with that assessment? I keep throwing it around.
100%.
But, just making sure I speak for all three of my and my two co-hosts when I say they're the top tier this upcoming season in the Big Ten.
No, don't sleep on Wisconsin, buddy. No, 100%. I don't know that anyone would disagree with you about those being the three best. Actually, someone might try and argue that USC is better, but I think the majority of people would agree that those are the three heavy hitters of the Big Ten.
Who's arguing USC is better?
I think that someone could try and make an argument that USC will be better than Oregon or something. USC is also talented, and so if you say, well, Oregon's starting an unknown quarterback and wide receivers hurt, I think that someone who is smoking...
What is known about USC's quarterback, though?
I'm just saying that there are people who I think can make an argument that USC...
There's only one person that would make that argument. That'd be Colin Cowherd. I think the only argument is that Penn State isn't in that elite class because they don't win the big games. And this is the year they're going to have to prove that. That can't be disagreed with at all. They don't win the games they're not favored in. They win all the games they are favored in.
Yep.
So I think that's your only argument for the big three class.
Fair.
Which is a great segue into Penn State.
Correct.
Sven said USC. I think me and him are on the same page if he's talking about what we're talking about. So I think we just clicked.
Well, but he disagreed. He didn't think USC is gonna be good. Not saying that you're saying USC is gonna be good because he's saying he had earlier that Lincoln Riley is gonna not be.
That's right. He's very much disagreeing with me about. Okay, that's fair.
Back on the Penn State train though.
Let's get back on
13-3 last year, and JP set it up pretty perfectly in the fact those three losses were to the three best teams they played. They don't really win the big games. They don't typically beat the teams that are as good as they are and beat teams that are favored in matchups. But Drew Aller's back. They return a ton of stuff besides him. Drew Aller, their quarterback, threw for 3,300 yards, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last season, had a 66% completion rate, 6 rush TDs, is looking to play his way into conversation to be the first QB taken in this upcoming draft class. He's that good. Some people think he's that good. They also returned their running back duo, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Pretty surprisingly, honestly, that both come back. I think part of it is due to the fact that they know they have a chance to win it all this year, but also this past NFL draft had such a deep running back class that it was just kind of really hard to get taken high because of that. So they bring back a ton of pieces offensively, and then they hit the transfer portal for wide receivers. In my opinion, the best one they got is Trevor Pena from Syracuse, had 941 yards and 9 TDs there last year, and he works in the slot, so it could be a nice little security blanket for Drew Aller there. With that being said, I want to kind of jump into my biggest point. Well, actually, first, JP, you can give your thoughts on Drew Aller. You're the known Penn State guy of the group, I guess. So,
I love Drew Aller. I think he's the best quarterback out of the quarterbacks that are going to come out this year at this moment. He makes, out of all of those quarterbacks, the most NFL level throws. Super strong arm. His accuracy last year, I thought, made massive improvements. His leadership was big, and in some of the games that they were supposed to win but were big moments, he made big throws. Think of the USC game. Think of the Boise State game. And then if you want to just see can this guy play in the NFL, go turn on the Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
He was amazing in that game for a Penn State offense that throughout the season was not explosive, and historically has never been explosive. The defense could not contain Dylan Gabriel in Oregon, and yet Drew Aller was keeping that Penn State offense step for step with that Oregon offense in that Big Ten title game. I thought it was his most impressive performance of the entire season and of his career. he is, he reminds you of Josh Allen, of course, with the size and everything. I think he's got a long way to go there. But also, if you remember Josh Allen correctly, he was super raw coming out of college and going into the NFL. And he didn't really develop until about year 4 when he finally kind of turned down on the interceptions and found that key middle ground. And that's when he started playing MVP level football. Aller could be on that same trajectory. I would take him as the first quarterback just because I think he's the safest option of like, okay, this guy is going to be a starter for sure. Looking at the other quarterbacks, I think you're taking a chance on a ton of them. But the other ones have higher ceilings than Drew Aller. I won't disagree with that whatsoever. But Drew is excellent. I think big things for this season is, can you maybe try to almost throw for 4,000 yards with the receivers that you have? Can the Penn State offense, I think, is going to have to be the workhorse. They've still got capable defenders, but the offense is going to be the engine of this team. And I'm curious to see if they can score up to like 30 points a game. And then I need him to stay healthy. I know he wants to win a national title, but if he gets hurt, he is going to hurt his draft stock a ton.
Sure.
And that is going to change whether or not he is drafted in the first round next year. So put your body on the line in the national championship game like Riley Leonard did, but try to protect yourself throughout the season and don't take big hits in games that you do not need to. Those are the things I'm looking for from Aller this year. But he's the best quarterback in the class right now.
Do you agree with that, Sanderson being the best?
I do agree. JP, would you postulate that if he had gone out last year, would he have been closer to Cam Ward than QB3 was to him? Or was he your QB2? Would he have been last year?
I think he would have been right there with Shedeur.
Okay.
Like, I think there's an argument for either of them. He, like I said, it's just like, I'm really confident that he could be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Sure.
And I think he has a higher ceiling than Shedeur, though.
Okay.
I think he could still reach maybe a Josh Allen ceiling. But I think he would have been right there with Shedeur at quarterback 2.
Cool. You mentioned the receivers he's going to have to throw to. So they brought in Trevor Pena. They do lose Tyler Warren at tight end, but they also brought in 2 other wide receivers. You mind scrolling down just a second? In Kyron Hudson from USC and then Devontae Ross from Troy. You had over 1,000 yards at Troy. I know it's a smaller school, so I want to throw that out there that he really popped there at Troy. Do you think the wide receiver room is 100% improved, in my opinion? Do y'all think it's more than enough to make up for losing Tyler Warren?
Oh, I definitely think it's more than enough to make up for Tyler Warren, and I think it could be enough to, I don't know if I'd say take it to the next step or the next level, but it will be, I think, an improved offense from last year because they've had the quarterback in Drew Aller to elevate an offense, and he just hasn't had the weapons around him other than Tyler Warren. And so now you have the same deadly run game you had last year with that duo of Singleton and Allen, and now you bring in wide receivers to go with your potential QB1 in the NFL draft, and it's like this offense could be like Big 12, SEC, sling the ball, or just ground and like they can kind of do it all.
Yeah,
is what I think that they could be building.
I mean, to answer my own question, I think it's going to be more than enough to replace them, and also, it's still not going to be the identity of their team, so it doesn't need to be this like elite group because of the fact Nick Singleton and Katron Allen's back and their offensive line should be good again. They're still just going to run the ball a ton, and then when push comes to shove and they have to throw, I think these guys can get open better than previous years' groups could get. Do you agree with that, JP?
I think there's no excuse at this point. All the weapons are there.
Yeah.
Offensively, they should not falter at all. Like health would be the only thing that could knock them back, but they'd have to lose multiple guys for that to be a question.
Sure.
They've really got no excuse in that, and I think looking forward to the season, because of that, I think they're going to be elite on both sides of the ball. They got no excuse to lose, definitely the Oregon game, but I almost feel like they have no excuse to not win the Ohio State game.
Yeah. To me, this team feels like a now or never team for Penn State.
For sure.
This is the year you got to show you can beat the best teams. This is the year even to find your way into the title game. Like, I have it down, it feels like a stars aligning moment.
Yeah.
Like, this team feels like it could be the best Penn State team we see in for a long time, and so they really need to capitalize on that.
Yeah. And Sven pointed out they steal Ohio State's defensive coordinator to pair with three top 50 prospects on the defensive side of the ball in A.J. Harris, Dennis Sutton, and Zane Durant. So the defense is going to be
Correct.
elite, too. They've got so many pieces there to pair with that really, really good offense. So I 100% agree that this team is – I mean, they're looking at, like, is the floor like another semifinal appearance? Did they get –
What do
No.
you mean by floor?
Sorry.
Like, you don't
It's
see
not
them
floor.
doing
The expectation or, like –
for them not to be upset or feel like it's a lost
Yeah.
season?
Like we talked about Clemson and how the stars have aligned there. I kind of feel like in Penn State, they were eliminated in the quarterfinals, right? Last year? I think that's right.
Yes, they're in the
Yeah.
semifinal.
Because they lost to
Austin
Notre
did.
Dame in the semifinal.
Yes. Okay. So they were eliminated in the semifinals. I mean, if that's what they did last year and they're supposed to be better this year, do you kind of think the expectation is at least a championship appearance or a championship?
I mean, that's the expectation, but I don't think they'll make it past the semifinal. I don't think James Franklin has gotten the skeletons out of the closet there.
Fair.
I think we're still a step away. So like that is like if there's a knock on Drew Aller, it is like you don't necessarily trust him in the big game yet. Like he just doesn't have that thing that would say, okay, he can take you over the top. And I think of like I compare that to the other quarterback prospects, like Lenore Sellers specifically has that, where it's like, oh, in a big game, he's gonna make the play when you need it most. I don't necessarily know that we have that with Drew Aller, but he made steps there.
Yeah.
And he'll have 2 big tests this season. And if he completes those tests, then I think it's like national championship or bust.
Yeah, the James Franklin piece is a bit of a worry because he really just has not won many of these big games. The biggest games in his career, he never gets the job done. But the over-under's at 10.5, just like Oregon's and just like Ohio State's. Are y'all both going to take the over like y'all did with those? Or
I'm gonna say the exact same thing that I said for Ohio or for Oregon, I think, and say I look at the schedule and I see one loss, and that's at Ohio State.
Sure.
I think they're going to win the Oregon game, and then the rest of the games they could win by 20, 25. That is a pretty light schedule. They got Northwestern at Iowa, Indiana's at home, at Michigan, Nebraska. This could be a lot of big blowouts for them. So I will be taking the over on 10.5. I don't have them going 12-0. I think they'll lose to Ohio State on the road, but I do have them going 11-1.
You got the over.
I'd say to pair this up with the other bet from earlier. I think this is 11 wins is one of my better bets of the season
Sure.
for college football.
Bet. I'm also going to take the over here. I'm not sure if they'll hit 12-0 or 11-1. Either way, that's the over. They do get really lucky. They don't have to play Washington like the other 2 top dogs in the conference. So, could call this a cream puff schedule because of that. But no, they'll hit the over. And with that, we have now jumped the shark. We go on quite the roller coaster ride because the next team up is Purdue.
Yeah.
Who is one of the worst teams in the conference. They went 1-11 last year, which was the worst record out of all Power 4 teams. And they bring in a head coach from UNLV, Barry Odom, to try and right the ship. We're very familiar with him because we all root for SEC teams. He was at Missouri for a while. Needless to say, though, he's got quite the task in front of him because they were bad last year. And then, Sanders, you want to run through kind of what you have of how their best players left from an already bad team?
Yeah, so they were bad last year. They went 1-11, but they had some talent on the roster, and now they do not. That talent has left for greener pastures. Tight end Max Clare, like we mentioned earlier, transferred to Ohio State. They had a defensive end who transferred to Clemson, Will Helt. We just talked about safety, Dylan Theinman, who transferred to Oregon, and they have a defensive lineman who transferred to Texas and Cole Brevard. So it's really just like the cabinets were emptied or whatever. The coffers were
You
emptied.
called them the Stanford of the Big Ten earlier.
I did call them. I have called them the Stanford of the Big Ten.
And then,
It
well,
is-
actually, no, I did. Because you called Rutgers the Stanford of the Big Ten.
Yes.
And then I said, no,
because-
Purdue is the Stanford of the Big Ten.
And then I said, no, Purdue is worse than that.
Correct.
It's Purdue. It's going to be another rough season. They have an out-of-conference game against Notre Dame, which
Winnable. Winnable.
Yep. Okay. It's going to be another tough season. They're projected to start 13 transfers. They have 0 players inside the PFF top 200 as of now, which is not surprising. They've got a QB battle going on. It's just
Bro, no one knows. You see what I got there? That's
you
crazy.
have 4 guys on the list. You want to walk us through the 4 guys?
Yeah, Ryan Brown, Bennett Meredith, Evans Chuba, or Malachi Singleton will be the starter for this team. No one really knows yet. JP, do you have a lean, or are you just kind of as lost as us?
This is the one school I avoided watching any quarterback film for, so I got 0 lean.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I saw they had 4 QBs in the battle, and I was like, I'm not going through all of that because also they're going to be bad. I don't think it really matters who they start. They did bring in a couple transfers. Nitro Tuggle, a wide receiver from Georgia. You may know his name because he got caught, like all the other Georgia players, driving way too fast in his car. Devin Mockabee is the running back that's been there for a couple years. He had 678 yards and 4 tutties last year. Tony Grimes, Aggie legend, is transferring with his coach from UNLV at cornerback. And they bring in TJ Lindsey, a young defensive tackle from Auburn. He didn't play much last year, but he's young, so maybe he can be good. It's tough, man. I have written in the notes, get excited for basketball season, Boilermakers. You at least Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer and Kaufman Wren, they're all going to be back. That starts in, 3 months?
Something like that, yeah. November.
Just get ready for that because I'll end it with this. You're 132nd out of 134 teams in the country in opponent points allowed at 43.5 last season. And then you were the worst team in the country in points scored at 12.7 last season. You lost all your best players. You don't really bring in a ton of talent. You had the worst recruiting class in the Big Ten last season. And your transfer class was 15th out of 18th in the Big Ten. You brought in 70 new players, and none of them are 4 stars. Things are not going to get better. Get ready for basketball season. The over-under is 3.5. Brother.
I'm hammering the under.
Yeah, I'll take the under.
I'm looking at
Because
it.
Notre Dame, you don't get 3 easy out of conference games.
No, not at all. You don't get. Yeah, no. I don't know if I see 2 wins on this schedule.
Do you think they'll go 1-11 again?
I'm not sure how good Ball State's going to be. I think Southern Illinois is an FCS opponent, so hopefully they can win that game.
I can speak on the Ball State. Ball State has the 3rd worst odds to win the MAC
Okay.
at plus 5,000.
So please don't lose that game, Purdue.
The spread for the opening game is only 17.5 points.
Yeah. I mean, the under is free. I really would love to predict this team to go 1-11, but who was their one? Was there one win last year, an FCS opponent? Do we know?
Yes, I believe so. I don't think they beat an FBS team last year. They won their first game of the season against an FCS school. I wish I could remember the name, but it's bad. I'm gonna take the under.
I'm pulling up their schedule from last year because now
Cool.
I want to know. Yes, they beat Indiana State 49-0, and then let's see what their out of conference games were: Notre Dame and Oregon State.
That's tough. I mean, that is tough.
So
They didn't
I
have
think
other
Oregon
options.
State is better than Ball State. So I think
How many times they scored single digits last year?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They scored 0, 1, 2, 3 times.
Man,
It was tough.
give me the under. I think Malachi Singleton's gonna start at QB though.
Yeah, I will not be predicting 1 win, but I will be predicting 2 wins. I see 2 wins on the schedule, and that is the first 2 games of the season. Purdue ranked in the top 25 after the first 2 weeks, going into week 3.
I will not be doing that personally.
They'll be 2-0, undefeated. JP, did you said yes, no,
Under.
under?
Perfect. We can stop talking about that team and move on to Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights. They went 7-6 last year under head coach Greg Schiano. Excuse me. He's kind of had a bit of a run of success there for a team that has struggled at football in recent years. But their QB is back, Ethan Kaliakmanis. I don't know how to say your last name. I'm sorry. He's back. He had a decent season last year. 2,600 passing yards, 18 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Only a 53.9% completion percentage, though. That's not really where their offense came from last year. It came from Kyle Monangai, the running back, who is now gone. He went pro. So the duo of C.J. Campbell from FAU, who put up great numbers there, and then Antoine Raymond, they're going to have big shoes to fill. They're going to have to look and figure out how to get that done. Or maybe they've transitioned more of a passing team. You got guys like Ian Strong at wideout. He had 676 receiving yards last season and 5 touchdowns. Good size. It fits his name. He really is strong. But, yeah, it is going to be tough. They're also replacing a ton on defense and looking to start 7 transfers on that side of the ball. It's a tough schedule. Overall, it's not a great outlook. Thoughts on them? What do we see happening for this team this season?
I think I was a little disrespectful when I referred to them as the Stanford of the Big Ten. I do think they will be better than that. They have a better outlook at least, and they've had, better recruiting and a little bit better talent than the Cardinal do. But it's a lot of transfers. They're only projected to start 9, but
Only 9.
Only 9, yes. Almost half of their starters will be transfers. It'll be interesting to see. JP, what are your thoughts on Kaliakmanis?
He's a fine quarterback. He's in that class of these Big Ten quarterbacks where it's just like, yeah, that guy plays quarterback. It
said.
Reminds me of Billy Edwards, the Maryland transfer to Wisconsin, who we'll talk about in a little bit. He's just he can play the position of quarterback, but he's nothing special. Nothing pops up off the tape.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do want to give a shout-out. I think their defensive end unit will probably be the best on the team. They brought in 2 transfers, Eric O'Neill from JMU, who has just kind of churned out great talent for the school they are these recent years. He had 13 sacks and 52 tackles there last season. And then Bradley Weaver coming in from Ohio. Great run defender for an edge, and then also pretty good pass rusher as well. I think they could cause some havoc on the edge, but it's just overall a solid team, but not a great team. And I think that's why we see their over-under sitting at 5.5. It's a tier above the really bad teams in this conference. But it's just they're never going to be a team to look to win double-digit games or something. And this is something I was thinking about as kind of doing my Rutgers research is Greg Schiano's had decent success there previous years, right? He's found ways to win the games he should win, raise the team's floor from the really bad years before he got there. But it'd be kind of cool if they could figure out a way to pull off a big upset win. Because that's one of the things they haven't really done under him is, find a way to even go to Illinois and beat Illinois. I'm not going to bank on them beating Oregon, Penn State, or Ohio State, and they have to play all 3. Yeah, or even Iowa at home. That doesn't necessarily feel quite the same in terms of a large upset, but they are a pretty good team.
Yeah. And I feel like that's Iowa is in a tier above them, and so if you can beat them, it's not the same as beating a top 25 Illinois if Illinois is ranked at that time, but Iowa is year in, year out a ranked team a lot of the time. So
yeah, I don't know. This is not me predicting it's going to happen, but I like Greg Schiano. I think he's a good coach, and I like what he's done at Rutgers. So it'd be cool if they could get rewarded with, that miraculous upset against a top 10 team. And they do play the 4 hardest teams in the Big Ten this year, so they'll have their chances.
Is it the 4 highest ranked, not the 4 favorites?
Correct. This is true. The 4 highest ranked. And they also have to go at Illinois to make that game even harder, even though they're not in the same tier as Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State. Anyway, the over-under's 5.5. Let's see here. Should win your first 3 games. It's can you find 3 more wins?
I'm gonna go under. Iowa, Oregon, Illinois, Ohio State, Penn State that's 5, and then I think you could lose at Minnesota and at Washington. That's 7, and then you're at the under, and that's without losing to Maryland, or you're not losing to Purdue. But I think I'm gonna go under.
I'll take the over. I just think they can find a way to get to 6 with this team. I think there's enough there and enough pieces, and Ethan Kaliakmanis is good enough. So I'll take 6. Respect to Greg Schiano. That's kind of really where the over comes from.
I got the under, personally.
Valid. Moving on to UCLA, the Bruins, and I believe you actually did this, Sanders. So if you want to take the reins, you're more than welcome to, or I can keep rolling.
If you want to do their, like, you're better at it, so you got it, and then I can talk
Sure.
about some of their other guys. So you intro them.
They went 5-7 last year under head coach Deshaun Foster. They're still kind of trying to find a way to right the ship and get kind of back on track to how good they were in the 2010s and such. They're too good of a program to be where they are in terms of win totals and also just recruiting rankings and stuff like that. But really not a great season. They do kind of make the surprise splash of the offseason, and that's where I'll let you'll take it over.
Yeah, so late in the transfer cycle, Nico Iamaleava enters the portal, transfers to UCLA, and then their quarterback, drawing a blank,
Joey Aguilar
completes the trade, transfers to Tennessee, so they swap quarterbacks. I think that's the defining moment of the offseason, maybe a defining moment of Deshaun Foster's tenure here, or it is probably at this point and could be going forward. It's been kind of rough. He was promoted after Chip Kelly left for Ohio State to be the OC, so it was a lateral move, if not a step down, probably just because he's not a head coach anymore. But they started 1-5 and were the first Power 4 team held under 20 points through their first 6 games since 2000. So a very poor offense, but they did go on after that, starting 1-5 to blow out or to win 3 straight games against bowl teams. I think it was Nebraska, maybe Washington. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it was
they
3 bowl
also beat USC
teams
as well.
Yeah, they change offensive coordinators. Eric Bieniemy was the OC for 8 months, and it was not great. It was 123rd in points per game and 110th in yards per game. So they bring in Tino Sunseri. Is that
close enough?
Yeah, Tino Sunseri, who was an assistant at Indiana last year. They were 43rd in yards per game and 2nd in points per game. So he should be able to kind of make some improvements there. They're starting 5 transfers in the secondary, which is a little concerning. Ben Perry from Louisville, who had a 58.4 PFF coverage grade and missed 26% of his tackles. Andre Jordan, a cornerback from Oregon State with a 63.9 coverage grade. Key Lawrence, safety from Ole Miss, who announced he was redshirting last season and after 27 snaps and was dropped from the team. Robert Stafford, a quarterback from Miami, who did not start a game for them last year. And then Cole Martin, a cornerback from Arizona State, who did not start a game from them last year. So a pretty concerning secondary, in my opinion. 2 guys who played underwhelming as starters at Louisville and Oregon State. A guy who just stopped playing football after 27 snaps, and then 2 guys who did not start last year. I am not excited to see that secondary try and piece together a good defense, but the offensive side of the ball is shaping up to be interesting. Nico Iamaleava comes in and pairs with Quasi Gilmer, a wide receiver, and is one of only like 3 or 4 4-stars they have on the roster right now. I mean, the roster is very bare as far as talent goes. I was looking back to their high school recruiting rankings, and they were getting like 1 or 2 4-stars a year over the past couple of years. Gilmer is one of the few remaining. They bring in Javian Thomas, a transfer from California, who had 626 rush yards and 7 touchdowns last year. But I think the most important part of the season will be, how does the Nico thing work out? Does Nico leave after this year if he has a good season? Does he have enough success that they can build on that going forward? JP, what are your thoughts on Nico Iamaleava? Because I have my thoughts. I think I'm low on him, and I believe you're higher on him. I think you like him, like his size, like his ability. So what do you think about Nico Iamaleava?
He's damn talented. PFF agrees. He's 90th on their big board, 8th quarterback. If he had been at Tennessee this year, I was picking Tennessee to win the SEC, and in large part it's because I was expecting him to take another step this year. Last year, the offense was not your typical Tennessee offense. It was not super explosive, even with talented guys on that offense. It was the defense that led that team, and that a ton of credit has to go to Tennessee and their coaching staff there. But here at UCLA, like, I think looking for this season, he just has to play well enough to not hurt his draft stock. I think he's got the talent to do that. He's tall, very athletic. The running threat hasn't been there as much as I would have liked, but he throws a really good deep ball. I mean, insanely strong arm. Um, I would love to just, I'm really, I would love to see good things out of him this year because I just kind of want validation that this isn't something that is just like the fact that he was a Tennessee quarterback. I mean, think of like Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker. A large part of them getting drafted was because of the numbers they were able to put up at Tennessee. And I don't want Nico to be in that class because I think he's better than both of those guys on paper for me.
Yeah. I'm more low on him I was not statistically, I think he had a kind of a bad season last year with the majority of his production coming up against very bad opponents. And so that was kind of the thing where, I mean, Tennessee went 10-2 last year. Yeah, I think it was 10-2 and then made the playoffs. It was very, very reliant on the run game. They were 11th in the country at 220 rush yards per game. And so 6 of his best 7 PFF offensive grades came against teams like Chattanooga, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, UTEP, NC State. It was just kind of, and that was where like 15 or 14 of his 19 touchdowns came. So it was a lot of, I feel like, beating up on bad opponents as a quarterback. And then when you went up against the Alabamas and the Georgias, like, rely on the run game. So that's why I'm a little bit lower on him, because why, as a head coach, are you taking the ball out of the hands of your very talented quarterback and being like, against the best opponents, and being like, well, now let's go run the ball and do nothing but run the ball. That was just kind of odd for me. And they were, I mean, the wide receiver room was probably slightly less talented than it's been in previous years. But they did have an NFL, they had a guy who's drafted in the 4th round, I believe, this previous year. So it wasn't necessarily, it was not an awful weapons wide receiver room. I mean, there was some talent there. So that's what kind of confuses me is, if you're super talented, why is your coach, who has in previous years with lesser talented quarterbacks heaved the ball, what changed with you as the quarterback?
I think a large part of it was just Nico wasn't someone who not necessarily wanted, but could run Josh Heupel's system of that speed, hurry up, fast decisions. I don't think that is something Nico is strong with, is making those quick decisions and running off the simple concepts. I don't think that's something that he's strong with. I think he fits better in a typical offense, which is why I still like him as a prospect for the NFL. I think he's much better putting him in a huddle. I think he would be a great play action quarterback with his strong arm. I think a large part of it was maybe just didn't turn out to be a fit at Tennessee from a scheme perspective.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, definitely a disappointing year from him last year, all things considered. But I think the long-term projection is still there in my mind. Like, I still think there's a way for him to become a very, very good quarterback. I'm not necessarily sure what he looks like next year at UCLA on a team that doesn't necessarily have the most fantastic weapons. Their offensive line is pretty poor. But, it kind of, you talked about it a little bit, JP, like if he can just be good enough to keep his draft stock where it is or rise it a little bit, I think he's just looking to go to the next level.
Yeah. And if you look at, I mean, you talked about, like, you know, being a little, what do you say, weapon poor or something. The talent on the team is not great. They had the 5th best transfer portal class in the Big Ten, but that's a very deceptive number.
Volume shooter.
Yes, it was Nico Imaliava was a 5-star transfer. They had 0 4-stars and 28 3-stars. So,
which some of those will hit.
Some of the 3-stars will likely hit and produce, but it wasn't saying they're the 5th best transfer portal class in the Big Ten. I do think is deceptive. So we'll have to see how that shapes out. Their over-under is 5.5. So
real quick, can we talk, like, Eric Bieniemy? Like, what happened to that guy?
Wasn't he at Kansas City?
Yeah, he was like I mean, obviously I know it's Andy Reid's offense, but like he was really touted, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's gonna be the next good like NFL head coach
Yeah.
out of that coaching tree." And here he is. He can't even make it through a year at UCLA. His offense is terrible. Like that's just fall off is crazy.
Yeah, where was he? Did he go from Kansas City to UCLA?
Did he coach at the Texans?
JP?
Am I just-
No, he made a lateral move to be offensive coordinator for Washington. No,
He did. Yo, that's crazy.
And then that
And
didn't
then
Under,
work out.
UCLA
Ron
with
Rivera.
Chip Kelly,
Yeah,
and then he stayed at UCLA.
interesting. I wonder where we'll go next. Back to the pro ranks probably. But anyway, we can get to the over under. I just thought that was interesting. Because he really was such a prized name
Now
in
he's
the
at the
football
Chicago
world.
Bears.
Called it. Yeah. Over under's 5.5. Oh man.
Tough
I
games
mean, you
on the
probably have them
schedule.
losing at UNLV.
Yeah, I would have them definitely have them losing at UNLV. That's my G5 championship pick.
I'm going under. They'll get 5, but I struggle to see this team making a bowl unless Nico really turns it around, which he could. But I'm still just going to take the under here.
Yep, I will also be taking the under. Penn State, at Indiana, Nebraska, at Ohio State, USC, Jags High and Washington. I mean, that's not. They do get to play Northwestern, but they go to Northwestern. They don't play Rutgers or Purdue. They play at UNLV, which I think could be tough. They play Utah, so that could also be tough. I will be taking the under as well. JP?
They don't have the talent to win 6 games, so I'm taking the under.
Good call. We're all on the same page, and now we move on to another California team, USC, whose prospects are a good bit better than UCLA's. They went 7-6 last year under head coach Lincoln Riley. Not necessarily what they would have liked record-wise. I will say they lost a lot of one-possession games, so team probably a little bit better than 7-6. Though then I'll counter myself and say I'm not sure Lincoln Riley is really a great coach, and that may be the reason they lose a lot of one-score games. It just kind of it's been a bit of a disappointing tenure so far for him at USC, especially considering how it started. But they go 7-6. Had QB issues last year. Miller Moss was supposed to be their guy after he had he graded out great in 2023. Did not perform the same in 2024. I think him and Lincoln Riley kind of got off the same page, and so they end up late season pivoting to Jaden Mayava, who in his limited playing time had 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He kind of fits the Lincoln Riley mold a little more. Lincoln Riley likes these guys that can make plays and like move the pocket, roll out and hit a throw. Pretty elusive. Miller Moss is kind of your more pure pocket passer. So I think Mayava fits the mold a little more, and that'll help the offense this next year. I got a good look at him because A&M played USC in the bowl game, and I heard it was a Jaden Mayava glaze session, which our DBs were so bad last year and he did cook us, so warranted.
It was a comeback win too, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Which that's what led Mike Elko to say what he was excited for next season was never having to watch a defense that bad play again. But he has pretty good weapons to work with in Mekhi Lemon. Had 764 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. He's back. He'll probably get drafted decently high this upcoming year. Jacoby Lane's also a solid wide receiver, 525 yards and 12 touchdowns last year. Great. That's second in the Big Ten. That's the best way to put it.
A touchdown monster last year. Didn't have the same yardage, only 525, but a touchdown go-getter for sure.
They did lose Zachariah Branch in the transfer portal to Georgia. They did lose Woody Marks. He graduated. Is he a Mississippi State legend? Can we get a confirmation on that?
He was here when we beat Ole Miss, I believe, so that would make him a Mississippi State legend in JP's eyes. I would also call him Mississippi State legend, I think.
He's one of my favorite Bulldogs of all time.
Yeah, just his
I remember y'all
longevity.
being pretty sad when he left.
Yeah, but
Was
also happy for him.
Did he go from State
To USC.
To USC?
Mm-hmm.
Who went
Yes.
to Washington?
Dylan Johnson.
Dylan Johnson. Thank you. I should know that. I'm a Husky man myself. But they also lost Deuce Robinson went to Florida State. You have that here. That's a big loss. Kyron Hudson goes to Penn State. So they lost some weapons, but I still think they have enough in-house options to, give Mayava good options. What are your thoughts on Mayava, both of y'all?
I think so. He had a good year last year in his 4 games as a starter. Went 3-1. I think it will be interesting to kind of monitor the QB room there. They have a 5-star, Houston Longstreet, Houston Longstreet.
Hassan.
Yeah.
I think that's how it is.
Yeah, he was an early enrollee. He's been on campus since December, and so he's been participating in bowl practices, winter workouts, and spring ball. So he will have been in the building come the first game for like 7 months, 6 months. So he will have been around for a while. Not to say, so I'll be interested to see what that QB room looks like. If we see struggles from Maava early, does Longstreet compete for that job? Does he get an opportunity to start? Or is this Maava's job like from the go, I guess?
I feel pretty confident it's Maava's job for the long haul, just because I have enough faith in him to perform well.
Yeah.
But JP, you've become kind of our QB guy. So thoughts on this, Brody?
He's a runner more than he is a thrower right now. He's really good on the off schedule. But a lot of the off schedule is he just relies on the fact that he is more athletically gifted than anyone who's coming after him.
Yeah.
And so there will be a lot of times where he'll scramble for too long, or he'll scramble just because he can. They did a good job when in the games he started. There were a lot of design runs that they gave to him, a lot of read options, which he excelled in. He's going to have explosive runs, long touchdowns for USC this season. He's got to develop those passer. He doesn't, because he's running around so much, you rarely just find him in a spot where his feet are set and he's just delivering a pass. It feels a lot of running around, stepping up the pocket, but that has been kind of stereotypical for Lincoln Riley quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams, that's kind of been their MO as well. So, like you said, it fits that Riley system well. I think he's the starter for the entire season. I don't think they have the room to start another new guy who hasn't played in Riley's system at all, even if he has been in the building. I don't think they can afford that.
They need a good season pretty badly here.
If that were to happen, then maybe Lincoln is in jeopardy of losing his job. They've got tough games this season, playing at Notre Dame, at Oregon. But I still think their biggest game of the season is Week 5 at Illinois, because I think it really could turn the tide for them. They had fourth quarter leads in 4 of their 5 Big Ten losses last year, which is kind of unprecedented to go 7-6 on top of that. So they're going to be 4-0 going into the Illinois game, and that is like a win. Then you have a bye, and Michigan comes to not to Pasadena, but to LA, and that's a huge game, and they can set themselves up for that. Lincoln, I think for them, they just need to rebuild this brand. It's taken
some hits.
It's taken a step back every year that he's been there. They have gotten one win less in the regular season, 8-4, 7-5, 6-6, and so they need to take a huge step forward this year, because they, in this NIL era, should be dominating, quite frankly.
Yeah. They have a really good class coming in 2026, just kind of talking about how they should be dominating it. It's a long way to the finish line, but it is currently the number 1 class. But I really agree that Lincoln Riley needs a good year this year, and I think that's a good segue into their over-under. 6.5? 7.5. I apologize. Man.
I think so. I think what JP said about that Michigan or that Illinois game is very important, because I think the difference in this team, if you go 9-3, beat Illinois on the road, and then lose to Michigan, Notre Dame, and Oregon, I think that's very different than if you're 8-4 and you lost Illinois. I think that's kind of the fence between, on one side, you're part of that second tier because you lost Illinois, and on the other side, you could be vying for a bottom of that top tier because you beat Illinois, who's out of the top, in the second tier, and then you lost to the 3 teams in the top tier.
Yeah.
And then Notre Dame, who's in the championship game last year. So I think you can pitch it to where that Illinois game, like you said, JP, is maybe the most important game on the schedule because it is the difference between are we, halfway down the second tier because we can't beat Illinois, or are we above them? I think that's really important. I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm going to go – go ahead.
Yeah, one more point on that. That's a big one. And if they win that, then I think the Michigan game becomes twice as big. I don't think you can – I don't care what the roster is or the discrepancy is there. Losing to a freshman quarterback in LA, I think would be a huge hit. That should be a game they should be favored in if they're undefeated at the time, and it's a game they should win as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the under though. I've learned to not trust Lincoln Riley. We saw they blew a lot of fourth quarter leads last season. They couldn't win close games. I'm not the biggest fan of him as the head man, so I'm gonna take under. They'll make it's not gonna be disastrous. They'll make a bowl.
I think I'm gonna go over. Even if they lose that Illinois game, I think they can get 8 wins out of this schedule. Lose to Oregon, Notre Dame, Michigan, and then Illinois. I think
you also got Notre Dame on the schedule there.
Yeah, it
you
is
go to Nebraska.
Yeah, to Purdue. Don't forget about the Boilermakers.
Sure.
No, I think that they can hit the over. I think that they will be more talented than at least 8 or 9 games on this schedule. So, yeah, I'm gonna take the over. It is difficult because it's Lincoln Riley and he hasn't done a whole lot to prove that he can, coach a team to sustain success. But I'm gonna hope that he has his guy finally after 2-3 years of trying to make it work with other guys like Miller Moss and who was it before that?
It was Caleb.
Was it Caleb before
It
Moss?
was.
Yep.
That feels like an eternity ago. All right. Well, I'm still gonna trust in Lincoln Riley to make it work finally.
Sure.
I've got him going over.
I've got the over as well. I think they're the dark horse team to reach that top tier in the Big Ten. I think the profile's there. I think the hype is there. I don't necessarily understand the hating on Lincoln Riley when he was extremely productive at Oklahoma, making the playoff multiple seasons, multiple
Times
Heisman
change.
winning quarterbacks, and a Heisman winning quarterback at USC as well. I understand how the last 3 seasons have looked, but I don't think we're ready to, push that on the table yet until this season goes poorly, which you are predicting. So I think because of that, it may have already been made up in your mind how you feel.
Maybe. I don't know. They should be better than this. They should have been better than this these past couple seasons.
Yeah.
And he's the reason I think that hasn't happened. So
I had another thought, and so I could see a world where they get 9 wins, and the boosters and the fans double down, and then they lock in that number 1 recruiting class. They bring in a good transfer class, and then next year we're looking at it over and under 8.5. This could be not.
it's a swing year.
It is a swing year, and we're talking about is this Riley's last year, hot seat, job on the line? But if they put together a 9-win season here, there's a good chance the boosters and the fans go, Lincoln Riley is the guy, and then they just throw everything they have at next year's transfer class, and they finish out that high school recruiting class and finish it out at number 1.
Yeah,
they've got another year of Maava. Other guys are coming back, so this could be. We say it's a swing year, and we've been talking about the downside, but let's not forget that if it swings the right way, we could be talking about USC as top 5 in the Big Ten favorites next year.
Yeah, the boosters help him get across and fans in terms of the class, but I also just feel like it's not like there's been a lack of support there throughout his tenure. So we can move on, though, to my boys, my Huskies. Man, tough first year for Jed Fish. At Washington, 6-7 record. He really did get dealt a tough hand coming over from Arizona. Washington just lost so much from that title game team. They didn't win it, but man, they were close. They returned 2 starters to this team for Jed Fish. I saw somewhere they only had 70-something scholarship players. At one point, they only had 6 healthy offensive linemen, which is part of the reason the offensive line was so bad last season. And y'all know what happens when you start Will Rogers behind a bad offensive line.
Yep.
Not good things happen. He started for a lot of the season, but it was pretty clear that Damon Williams is the future in Jed Fish's eyes. So he started the past couple games, the last few games of the season, had 944 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, 78% completion percentage. Didn't necessarily win a ton of games, but I went and watched him, and man, he is a blast to watch. He is so fast. He's so elusive. Someone compared him to Kyler Murray, and I don't necessarily hate that too much because he's also a little small. But JP, thoughts on Damon Williams?
He's tiny. I can confirm that.
Yeah, he's a little.
So many of his highlights are runs.
Yeah.
So I would love to see development as a passer on film. Statistically, he's there. 950 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 pick. That is really productive, especially only starting 2 games. But he came in a lot of moments throughout last season at the end of games, especially early on. Washington was blowing out their opponents.
It'll help boost the stats.
Would play in the last garbage time.
Yeah.
But the talent's there. Josh Pate's really high on him. A lot of other people are really high on him. I'm really curious to see how he'll perform. And he's got weapons, too.
Yeah.
Jonah Coleman is a dog. And then Denzel Boston is going to be a really good weapon for him. And he could be putting up some highlights as well. He's at contested catch monster is a brilliant description of him and his talent. Washington is going to be an interesting team, and I'm excited to see them hopefully take another step forward with Jed Fish. Their last year was just for like you described it, this is kind of what this era of the NIL can be for the other teams that get new coaches and have new staffs. We saw this with, I feel like, Mississippi State last year, where it's a new staff, it's a new coach, so many new players, so many transfers. State's issue last year was we didn't have the depth at defensive line, so we didn't know how to practice against SEC bodies on the defensive line. And for Washington, they had 6 healthy offensive linemen at one point last season. So I think another year building that this is a team that could potentially regain that stride that they had with Kalen DeBoer, because I think Jed Fish is a good enough coach that they can find themselves competing for a Big Ten title once every 3 years, depending on who they got at quarterback. Because I think for Washington going forward, I don't think they'll ever get to a point where the rosters compete with Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State.
No.
But as we saw with Michael Penix, like, you just need an elite quarterback and maybe a few weapons, and the offense can compete with those caliber of teams.
Sure, and that's even Washington hasn't always recruited the best. They always find a way to have good wide receivers and more often than not a pretty good quarterback. Josh Pate, I think, is high on Damon Williams because Jed Fish is high on Damon Williams. Like, you listen to the guy talk about him, he's just raving. Basically, right after last season ended, where he was a true freshman, by the way, for y'all that don't know that. Jed Fish was like, yeah, he's our guy, he's our future. Like, gave him the stamp of approval. And they went to the portal and even just the recruiting class to try and beef out and fill out the holes in this roster because it really was lacking. They get to Tacario Davis, a corner. He transferred from Arizona, where Jed Fish came from. Great point about Jonah Coleman. He's a beast. And the offensive line, I mentioned it being bad. It was 128th in pass blocking grade per PFF last season, 106th in run blocking grade per PFF. It has to improve, and I expect it to improve. They bring in Carver Willis, a tackle from Kansas State. Very solid in both facets of the offense. But even just, like, getting more bodies. I mean, like I said, they had 6 healthy guys. Like, how does it not get better? But it really, I think the ceiling of this team comes back to Damon Williams. Can make highlight plays. He is young, though. He is small. Does that come back to bite him? He did take 10 sacks in their Oregon game last year, which is
that's insane.
Pretty unideal. I mean, they got smoked by Oregon. But he's a ton of fun to watch. If he can kind of harness it, if Jed Fish can do to him what he did for Noah Fafita, we could be in a really good spot, we as in Washington. So I'm really excited personally. The over-under 7.5. I'm taking the over. I'm going to believe in my boys. I'm going to believe in Damon Williams. But what are y'all thinking about this team? I didn't even look at the schedule. I just
I'm looking
shot
at the
from
schedule
hip.
now. It's not I mean, they've got Ohio State at Michigan, Oregon. You can convince me to take the over. I'll take the over. I'll buy into Damon Williams early. Is he a sleeper college keeper league pick, or has he already been picked up last year?
That's a great question. My guess is he's already been picked up.
I imagine he got picked up,
which is sad.
The end of last year.
He also wears number 2, which
yeah, okay,
does something for me.
I'm gonna buy into the Damon Williams hype and pick the over here. I also really, really love Jed Fish. I loved him at Arizona. I was very sad he left because I loved what he was doing with that program there. I hope that he can kind of build that same success at an even higher level at Washington, after we've seen what Washington can do at its best. He did that in the recruiting this last year, capitalizing on the run to the championship game, bringing the 7th best class in the Big Ten this year. So, or I guess that would have been last year. I'm getting my years mixed up.
Washington would be really cool.
Yeah.
That'd be a crazy school to get to go to.
Yeah.
Imagine going to Washington.
Yeah. So he was he brought in the 7th best class in the Big Ten after going 6 and 7. So I will be excited to see what he can do now that he has a year under his belt there, and it's not quite as chaotic as his arrival after what's his face left.
Kalen DeBoer.
Thank you, DeBoer.
You're welcome. What's your over-under pick, JP?
I think they'll hit the over. I think they'll win some big games. They're going to be sneaky good, although I'm about the 10 millionth person to say that. So
they're not really sneaky anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not sneaky anymore. I think they'll just be good. And I think they'll get to 8 wins.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think 8 wins is the right call. I just hyped them up big time. I'm not trying to act like they're going to have a double-digit season out of nowhere.
Yeah, maybe they scare Ohio State or Oregon. Those should be 2 really fun games to watch.
I think if there's a team that could pull off a upset win against one of the top dogs, it is this Washington team. So that means it won't happen because everyone's on it. But
is Washington, Oregon like Paul Bunyan's Axe or the Apple something?
The Apple Cup is Washington State.
Oh, okay. Who's
it is,
Paul
right?
Bunyan's Axe? Who's
Yeah.
Paul
Paul
Bunyan's?
Bunyan in Wisconsin and
Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Minnesota,
I'm
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
What is okay? I don't know what Oregon Washington is. That's sad. I feel like I should know that.
Tucker will know.
All right.
If they have a name for it. We
Next
can go
up.
on to our final team. It's Wisconsin, and you did this one, but I'll do the pre-roll, I guess. Wisconsin Badgers. The Wisconsin Badgers went 5-7 last year under head coach Luke Fickell. It's not necessarily been what Wisconsin hoped it would be under Luke Fickell, considering what he did at Cincinnati and kind of the circumstances they got him in for. It's just kind of been average seasons, and from there, Sanders, take it away.
Yeah, so they are set up. It's going to be very different this year. So they're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, Jeff Grimes, who it's a big change up from the guy they had last year. I don't remember his first name. Longo? Phil Longo. Thank you. He tried to bring an air raid offense to a Wisconsin team that has just never been that style. They've churned out running backs like Monty Ball, Jonathan Taylor, Melvin Gordon, Corey Clement. And these are it's just their identity has been the run game for so long that it makes sense that the air raid never really clicked there. And so, yeah, they bring in Jeff Grimes, and it's going to be hopefully getting back to that same old approach. Grimes comes over from Kansas, where last year they were 16th in the country in rush yards per game and rush yards per attempt. So pretty good rushing attack there. It'll be really exciting to see. They've got 2 4-star running backs from last year in Darian Dupree and Dylan Jones. So they were both class of 24. They'll both be redshirt freshmen or sophomores, so they're both going to their second year. That could be a really good duo. The quarterback, Billy Edwards, we'll get JP to talk about him in a second, comes from Maryland, where he had 2,800 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Then he also had 5 rushing touchdowns. And I believe maybe more the year before. So he's a good running threat. They've got a good wide receiver in Jaden Ballard, or formerly talented. He's a talented wide receiver. Was the number 4 wide receiver in the class of 2021. He never started a game in 4 years at Ohio State, but Ohio State had guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. last year.
Emeka Egbuka.
Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate. Like, that wide receiver room has been so stacked that you could be an NFL wide receiver and not have ever started a game at Ohio State the past couple of years. They do have some NFL talented guys. They've got an offensive tackle who's top 100 on the PFF Big Board. He allowed only 2 sacks last year with a 74.5 PFF grade. They've got a safety who had 2 interceptions, only 1 touchdown allowed. He's top 150. Another cornerback who had a down 2024 year, but in 2023, which I believe was his freshman year, had 7 interceptions with only 1 touchdown and an 84.1 PFF coverage grade.
I'll take a guy with 7 picks.
Yeah, definitely. So if he can kind of get back, I was really surprised when I saw that he was rated so highly on the big board. I looked at his 2024 stats, and they were low key awful.
Yeah.
And I was like, this makes no sense. But you go back and look, and it was kind of a Derek Stingley situation where he played incredible as a freshman and just immediately like put his name down as a like NFL draft guy. So we'll see how that shapes up for him going into year 3. But quarterback Billy Edwards, JP, what are your thoughts about him and this new Jeff Grimes offense? How will it work with Billy Edwards?
Well, I'm glad we're going away from the air raid. That should not be run, north of Tennessee, just because of weather concerns.
Sure.
Really, get late into the year. Billy is, like I said about the Rutgers quarterback earlier, he's a quarterback. He can make some throws. He's not too afraid to run and run over some guys. Like, he's one of those quarterbacks where, because he's obviously never going to reach the professional level, college ball is his only ball, so he doesn't care what happens to him. He will try to run people over and play physical and is not worried about putting his body on the line, which could be exciting for Wisconsin, potentially a quarterback. And I think he'll fit perfectly in this kind of offense where it's a ground and pound, play action pass. I think he's a great fit for that. He doesn't turn the ball over a ton. He had 9 picks last year, but Maryland was just a bad team, and they were down in a lot of games, and he was forced to throw the ball a ton and was forced into bad decisions. I don't expect that to necessarily be the case at Wisconsin, even though they may not be leading in a bunch of games either. They're going to stick to their MO, and I think Billy will play fine with the Badgers offense.
Yeah, it was. So his rushing stat line in 24 was 267 yards, 5 touchdowns. In 2023, it was 98 yards, 7 touchdowns. So I don't know what the situation there. I don't think he had a lot of passing attempts. I could be wrong. So it might have been a situation. Yeah, he did not. So it was probably a situation where he was the red zone, come in and punch the ball in. So,
well, yeah, I mean, Talia was there. Talia's not going to be the...
Yeah. So...
Am I pronouncing it wrong again?
I think it's Talia.
Talia.
I'm not.
Frick.
Now I don't know. Now you're making me question.
We're good. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have mentioned anything.
Billy Edwards can get it done with his legs. So I am excited to see that along. I almost want to predict like a dynamic 2-headed attack out of the backfield with Dupree and Jones, or Dupre, depending on, I don't know how that's pronounced.
I'd say Dupree.
Yeah, probably.
It's 2 E's.
Yeah. So that could be really exciting. Those are 2 talented guys. Over under is 5.5. Last year they went 5-7. They do have a tough schedule this year. They play Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, Illinois, and Alabama. And that means that I will be taking the under. Well, no, they could win the other 6 games. They play Washington, too, though.
And they go to Minnesota, who's no slouch. I was going to take the over here, but that schedule's just too tough for me to do that confidently.
Iowa. They play Iowa.
I'm going to take the under here, which is unfortunate because I think this team is good enough to make a bowl. In theory, that schedule just is lethal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would take the under here, too. They play the toughest schedule in the Big Ten by far.
Yeah.
And I think Pate said it was like top 5 toughest schedule in the country.
If they miss a bowl, does Fickle
at Alabama, at Michigan, at Oregon,
yeah,
good luck.
There's no easy stretch.
No. The first 4 games are probably the easiest, and you go to Alabama.
We talked about it previously. Even the bye week can be tough, and they've got to play bye week twice.
Yeah,
both of those at home, but
getting them at home is pretty crucial. Crazy, only one team has to go to bye.
Yeah.
Bye week's just a road warrior for the most part.
Yeah.
If they don't make a bowl, y'all think Fickle could get fired?
Here's what I was about to say. I think this season could be a good season and you go 5-7. And by that I mean they reclaim their identity. I think Luke Fickle can reestablish the 2010s Wisconsin where they went 10-2 a couple years, like had some really good years. I think if Fickle can reestablish that identity, win 5 games against your easier opponents, you're out of conference, Maryland. Who is their other? Oh, Alabama. So you're not winning that game, but 2 out of conference and then 3 Big Ten wins. And then in the games you lose, as long as you are, putting up some rush yards and you are carrying that identity, I think I think he could buy himself another year. And then in next year, you build on that and hopefully have an easier schedule. The home with Alabama, I believe, would be over. I do not know if they have it beyond 2 years. So, yeah,
it's over. They played it out. Alabama went to Wisconsin last year.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was a home and home or sometimes they have it could be.
Well, yeah, I mean
long term.
This is the second part of it, so.
Yeah, I think he could go 5-7 and keep his job.
I mean, he could
because they're bringing the Wisconsin identity back.
But I just trying to get fans and boosters to see that can be tough.
Maybe you get lucky and you get to 6 wins, beating Iowa and Illinois at home.
I mean, it's
and
not
Washington.
Out of the realm of possibility. That as you say, it sounds pretty daunting. I am Tucker. The Cascade Clash sounds like a mobile game.
It does.
Like I'm glad they no longer call it the Cascade Clash. It's better off just not having a name. Talking about the Washington-Oregon matchup, because man, the Cascade Clash is rough.
If Cincinnati and Wisconsin could switch coaches, who's Cincinnati's coach right now?
Oh, what's his name? We literally did the preview 2 weeks ago. Can we get his name, please?
Have we all done our over under?
Yeah, we all took the under.
Okay, cool. I think we can call that wraps.
Let me see if Tucker answers.
But that can be. That's not part of the video. I'm gonna call that. I'm
okay.
Not gonna.
Well, let me do that. The outro for the podcast then.
Yeah. No, we can talk to Tucker about that. I just was like, we're done with Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
Do you want? Go ahead.
I was gonna wrap it up, but you sound like you have something else to say.
No.
Okay. JP, thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you back in the studio. I wish we had like a big teddy bear to put in your seat or something, but we don't.
Yeah, we need to figure something out for that.
A big chicken, maybe.
I would love a big chicken.
I was gonna jokingly text and ask
it is Satterfield.
Win in that seat, and then try to mouth to
that'd be funny.
That would be
Whenever I am ask you a question, I just look at Win. JP.
Yeah, and for the TikToks, then you have someone who's just sitting there.
Yeah.
as well, now the chair will be empty. I don't know how you'll frame that, Sanders, but
I might try and photo. I'll figure it out. I'll put a photo of you up there or something.
Cool. But anyway, we are at the 2 hour and 55-minute mark. It's been a long one, 18 teams to go through, but we enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you're still listening, I'm gonna assume you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But that's all from us, and we'll be back for y'all not Sunday like normal. We're gonna wait till Monday so JP can get back for the SEC preview
and an extra day of prep.
Actually, prep will be nice, but really just this is the SEC show. We know SEC ball the best. It only feels right that all 3 of us are in the studio for that one. So it'll be a Monday night SEC preview show. So we'll see y'all then. Peace.
See ya.
I think they would both take the swap, Tucker, to be honest.
Who is Scott? How long is Satterfield? Because Cincinnati's been bad. Why is Wisconsin going to take that?
They had to transition to the Big 12, and it's not been great for them. I mean, I don't think it would be Wisconsin's first call, if that makes sense. But it could happen. I mean, it's not going to happen, but I'm just in terms of teams swapping coaches, there's not many that are even really plausible. But that one is at least plausible.
I'm so glad you brought the Cascade Clash because I did 3 double takes thinking he was talking about Clash Royale. Or something. It sounds like a mobile game.
You match the tiles when you get 3 tiles. It goes away. There's a waterfall in the background. There's water sound effects, all of that. But we can end the live.
Yeah, appreciate you hanging out,
Thanks,
Tucker.
Tucker, and thanks,
And
Sven, if you're still there.
And Chromie dropped in. Thank y'all for hanging out with
Prometheus.
us. I cannot wait for the SEC